YouTube, I'm live. Twitch, I'm always live. Because I don't know, Twitch just is one of those streaming services where it's just like 100% you're live. The question is, do I look good on YouTube? Wait, oh, crap. Okay, everything's good. I just forget. I need to change my delay. Wait, hold on. What's my delay? Because I forget I always forget something, y'all. I always forget something. I'm like, oh man, yo, everything's all set for the stream. No, not everything's set for the stream, Seku. My camera and audio is already out of sync. Hold up. 12:50. That's okay. Everything's on the right track. Now my webcam. Bop, bing, bow. And I think everything should now be in sync. There we go. Now everything's in sync. Hello, people. Seku-Senpai here, back for some more Witch on the Holy Night. I'm looking at this like I'm reading a script. Okay. Hopefully I didn't see that. That's some important stuff on that paper too. But yo, anyways, we're back for some more Witch on the Holy Night. It's been over a week. I apologize. I've been busy, you know, just things have been changing my schedule. Now I'm like free to get some stuff done. Get back to this storyline because we left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. We're still in the battle of the night. Oh snap! My switch. Stop. Wait, my switch about to go to sleep. Yeah, we left off. There's a battle still. Alice showed up. We thought that little mannequin thing was the final boss. Nope. Alice showed up and said, "Hold up, we can't let this dude Sojiro live for another day." So, ooh, let's get this going. My headphones aren't even on. My audio work? Okay, good. Everything's good. Let's make sure I heard it too. Night of the Witches Part 2, because yeah, last one I did Part 1. Put that down so that's not on screen. And yeah, let's get this going. So yeah, today I'm probably going to do all of Part 2 for Night of the Witches, but I think there's another part, which I plan on doing tomorrow, actually. So yeah. Broadcasting at this hour. Oh, I was so distracted by this. I was like, what's that sound? Yo, what's up? Yeah, I don't know. Something about broadcasting at the evenings. Well, that's when I'm free because I'm working during days. So, I mean, I can't speak for other people, but okay. The melody stirred an emotion like nostalgia within them. Something was familiar, but now lost to the world. They believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that they would play for all eternity. From opening stanza to final coda. Ooh, I like that final coda. It was a mysterious siren's song, merry yet longing, that heralded in return from dreams to reality. The night shook. A song was spun. Now the lost paradise was unearthed. Abandoned dreams. Forsaken idols. They all responded to the cry of the blue cat. Oh, okay. The name of that bell was Diddle Diddle, Banquet of the Night. All fables made possible, all marvels made real, by the magecraft of Alice Kunji, more magical than magic itself. It's about to go down. Yeah, Aoko. I'm like on her side now. Alice perched atop the clock tower like a black bird of ill omen. She smoothed the ruffles of her skirt as if they were preening. There was tension in Aoko's voice as she lifted her head. The calm atmosphere from a moment prior had long since been shooed away by Alice's gaze. The girl at the gate. Sojiro searched his hazy memory. He could not clearly make out her face at this distance, but he was sure he'd seen her around town a number of times. Where and when eluded him, however, as the tension in the air kept him from connecting all the dots. Makes sense, man. You're just running for your life. You're about to keep running again. Aoko readied her guard and took half a step forward, unconsciously. From an objective standpoint, it almost looked as though she were protecting the figure behind her. It does look like that. I wonder why. Alice's silence grew even heavier. Her eyes fixed on the ground below her were devoid of emotion. An indescribable sense of dread and pressure laid claim over the plaza. The cuss was that? If he strained his ears, he could make out the faint ringing of a bell echoing in the distance. The rippling sound waves seemed unbelievably to be emanating from under the ground. Yo, Sojiro, it's best for you to be quiet right now. Exactly. Sojiro stepped back, trying to stay out of the way. It was as though he had been told to go to hell. For the crime of asking if the girl was Aoko's friend. It's crazy because I was like listening the other time I was streaming. I was like, wait, her voice sounds so familiar. And I was like, oh, it's kind of Hanazawa who's voicing Alice the whole time. I was like sure that was the case, but I was like, no. Uh-huh.
さっさと帰っていいわよ、アリス。私の仕事っぷりを疑うわけじゃないんでしょ?
Oh, their eyes locked in on one another. Alice's stare was uncomfortably cold. Aoko's was bold, daring Alice to the air her complaints.
いえ、気が変わったわ。せっかくだし二人で帰りましょう。その方があなたらしいわ。帰りしな。人形の話でも聞かせてちょうだい。らしいって何よ、らしいって。いいから帰れ帰れ、ぐうたらアリス。部屋に閉じこもって役に立たないムクドリでも作ってろっての。
Aoko, you trying to make her mad? Like, a disappointing sigh escaped Alice's delicate lips. It seemed that the black-clad girl was more astonished than angry. Quietly, Alice questioned her roommate of nearly 2 years. Oh, she said you're breaking our promise or our secret that we kept? Or has compassion taken a hold of you?
別に、情っていうより私の気分。だいたい方針なんてその場その場で変わるもんでしょ。気分ならなおさらよ。そっちこそ一度した約束は絶対守るなんて時代遅れなんじゃない?
Well, the proverbial knives were out now. No quarter was given, no quarter taken. Sadly, their partnership was one of convenience and had not reached a level of mutual understanding. Yep, they went over that last time. Put that right there. Okay. Their version of friendship was both delicate and unique. When a conflict of opinion arose, each would refuse to budge until the other crumbled. They're stubborn, that's what that is. They're hard-headed. Neither was concerned for the other's plight, and at least for now, that was how they liked it. Once again, she let out a sigh, even larger than the one before. Oh! Finally, she struck straight to the point. As if making a move a chess piece. As if making to move a chess piece, Alice lifted her slender finger. Ooh! Oh, dang! Oh! Sojiro does not even with the simple action seemed mysterious to Sojiro, the same boy who had been hunted by his classmate Ako Azaki and bore witness to an automation, Ako's violence, and an animated doll. Though perhaps far beyond the realm of logic, both these things were derived from reality. As surprised as he had been, there was no need to think of them as total mysteries. However, when the thing appeared out of thin air from a seemingly unrelated gesture, he had no words for it besides mysterious. Sojiro stood motionless, captivated by the stage performer's magic trick, as the girl's single-finger magecraft turned into an attack directed at him. A blue light flew from the side to repel it, annihilating it without a trace. Then Sojiro... Yeah, right there, Alko, you sealed the deal with that. Alko immediately regretted her reflexive shot.
どういうこと？約束を曲げただけじゃなく、ルールまで破るつもり？
Oh no. The already chilled midwinter air plunged below freezing. Alice looked calm and collected on the outside, but in reality she was sometimes even more hot-blooded than Alko, especially when it concerned her familiars. Accidentally destroying one often would result in a week of silent treatment, but maliciously destroying one, Alice would reserve the right to retaliate without fair warning. Yeah, the worst time. Oh man. Although Alko was shocked at the depth of her own stupidity, she was also in fact a bit relieved. She did not intend to make any excuses, and she had no regrets. If she had broken the rules, then so had Alice. Oh. If anything, this took a load off her mind. After all, now there's no going back. She's like, okay, I don't have to beat around the bush no more. We could initiate this battle. You know, a Mahō battle. Alko never intended to break her own rules. If there was anything for Alko to regret, it was putting too little power into her shot. She said, yo, that's 24 hours of gossip he could do. Taking on a pro bono case in the defense of suspect S was a socially acceptable thing. She said, yeah, for you, but not for me. I love the way they're showing this. Sojiro's human rights had not yet entered the argument. The girls were busy pouring oil on each other's flames. Sojiro, don't say anything, man. The girl clad in black was the first to move, or rather to erupt. Let's get this going, man. Yeah, just like... Alko bit back the retort. She was very familiar with Alice's magecraft, and knew painfully well how many mystics were hidden in Alice's tiny body. Mystics. The odds of victory were essentially non-existent, and once the first shot had been fired, Alice Kunji was without mercy. Whether facing a roommate or a friend, a most beloved family member or a stranger. Once Alice began to fight as a witch, she became heartless, unflappable monster. Unflappable. That's a funny word. Unflappable. Okay. Alko advanced another half step forward as if to encourage herself. It was too late to back down now. The situation was no longer a trivial quarrel over a witness. The bedrock of their so-called friendship had nothing to do with their individual abilities, but everything to do with being equals in will. That is why, in order to stay true to herself, Alko had no room for compromise or deception. Her magic circuits howled as they kicked into gear. Her body, which had mostly been dormant during battle with the puppet, ignited, preparing to demonstrate its true power worth. Yo, this is a game.
どの道最後には殺し合う仲でしょ私たち。
Her courage overpowered any fear she had for her opponent. Ooh! Putting that into high gear. Tuning her body, her magic circuits become like the barrel of a gun. Akko fired a magic bullet. It was an exceedingly basic magecraft formula. There was no nature interference, no creating of wind, parting of water, or hastening of decay. It was simply the process of converting the imaginary action known as magical energy to something real before releasing it as a heat. Thus, Akko's destructive power was equal to her supply of magical energy. The magic bullets she had used against Sojiro were among the most basic single action magecraft that did not require any incantation. At her present ability, Akko's main mode of attack, her magic bullet, could be fired at 3 levels of power. These were at the 2nd level. This required a double action magecraft, a casting through activation of her crest combined with a simplified incantation. Huh. However, Alice got that shield up. Without blinking, Alice dispersed the shot that Alko had mustered all of her spirit to fire. I mean, the way they show that, it's cool. Alko tutted in frustration. A swift sneak attack, magecraft that used a simplified incantation, would not be enough to break Alice's guard.
相変わらずお堅いこと。そのから一段と独りよがりになってるんじゃない？
Sojiro back there. Akko provoked Alice in order to disguise her own lack of composure. Okay, truly a chess match right here. Somehow Alice seemed delighted by Alko's bravado.
こういう勢いだけのきっかけは初めてだけど驚いたわ。こんなくだらない理由でもその気になるものなのね。
Alice giggled. Smiling with heartfelt amazement, Alice gestured her left hand toward the earth. You know, I ate some pizza before this. I don't know why, but every time I eat pizza, I get like super dehydrated afterward. I don't know, it's weird, but... She's bringing all the silverware. That's why I'm drinking a lot of water, if anyone's wondering. Not from reading, but just from, I don't know, it's weird. But countless utensils shot up from the ground, the cobblestones paving the plaza. Yo, Suzuki, you shouldn't have to let her tell you that, man. She grabbed his hand as she shouted, jumping backward before he even had a chance to respond. As if they had wills of their own, the utensils had suddenly appeared from the ground, gave chase. As the barrier of spears grew around them, Akko and Sojiro put some distance between themselves and the clock tower. Just under 30 feet stood between them and Alice. The lethal weapons that had crumbled the stone beneath them fell short of what Akko had anticipated. Maybe she's taking it easy on y'all. They now encircled the clock tower, making the scene look like the burning of a witch at the stake. The path behind them was safe. If they wanted, they could try to make a break for the main gate and escape. But can they leave? Couldn't she have like a, bound field or something up? Bound barrier? There's a bound, I think it's called bound field. If she could just make it back to town, it would be Alko's win. All she wanted to do was let Sojiro get away for the night. So if she could get him back to the city, it would be, for the most part, mission accomplished. Okay. Oh, what the heck is that? Or so she had thought. Without even offering a glance at her targets below, Alice carefully and lovingly pulled out a bottle from her pocket. Yo, Akko went quick for the offense. Yo, because what's that potion? Definitely got her spooked. Her shot was deflected with ease. Gone was Akko's earlier bravado. It was only natural. Akko was indeed grown as a mage. Grown as a mage. Over the last 2 years of study, her studies had progressed well, and she'd more or less gotten a grasp on her roommate's tendencies and abilities. This had made her conceited enough to believe that under favorable circumstances, she'd be able to show Alice a thing or two in a fight. But... Ooh. Alice uncorked the magical bottle. A gentle breeze caressed her cheek. Diddle-diddle fled as the new player stepped onto the stage. But from where would it enter? The sound of footsteps, a nostalgic parade, approached. Oh man, drop powers to the music park? That's kind of creepy. Hey. Unfortunately, it was true. It was a miracle. This was a miracle that Akko Aozaki, our princess mage, had never witnessed. The dead came to life. The inanimate awakened. The woods were enveloped by the mists. Fire-breathing lizards lurked in the swamps. Puppets made merry at midnight. As Kunjo's slender fingers had transfigured the entirety of the park, as if gently stroking the back of an elderly cat. For one night, the wasteland of dashed hopes and dreams was restored to the former glory. Ooh, I'm looking at them. Oh, it's here right now. This is from the Nutcracker, is it? Maybe it's not. I don't know. It sounds like a part from it. Okay. It was an... This part sounds like... Okay, I don't know. It was an immortal monster ready to devour reality. Is this the part where the mouse king, rat king is fighting the Nutcracker? Like, I'm pretty sure that's the part, and it sounds like it. A dark fairy tale that, once unleashed, would never let its prey escape. Her declaration marked the start of a desperate battle. The witch in black laughed at her friend. Her musical mirth filled the affection, sadness, and innocent delight. I hope it's not, because I might get copyrighted on that. Oh man. Faded glory returned to Kitsuland. The neon glow of the innumerable lights illuminated the night. Speakers filled the air with the sound of vinyl music. Merry-go-rounds, small and large, whirled around and round. All in all, it made for a mind-bending spectacle. It was certainly possible to power the facilities by transmuting magical energy into electricity via alchemy. That said, simply supplying the park with electricity would not have brought back the life that which was broken. Oh, when the ad came up. I wonder, when the ad... Okay. Simply supplying the park... Yeah, I read that. The young woman did this not by mixing chemicals into a compound, but by melting down divine providence into which it brewed. Wait, hold up. They're like explaining her magic, and I'm like reading but not reading. Some possibilities. transmuting magical into okay. The alchemy. Supplying the particle that should do not blah young men did this not by mixing come from by melting down divine promise to which is brew. Okay.
まずいわね。アリスのプロイを何個か見てきたけど、今回は桁が違う。
She never showed you what she's fully capable of.
セット。
Stifling her anxiety, Aoko fired up the crest on her right arm. If magical circuits were a mage's engine, then her crest was software that assisted their magecraft. Okay. Okay. For the fledgling mage Aoko, this was her trump card. All she had to do was supply magical energy to her crest-based formula. It may not have been the strongest magecraft, but it was hers. Proof that she was the successor of the Aozaki lineage. Ooh! The pattern of her crest shifted to execute the formula, which then connected to her magical circuits. The process resembled trains changing rails, a puzzle involving dozens of circuits. She constructed it as swiftly as possible without sacrificing the quality of its construction. Instant magecraft cast without an incantation would not be enough to reach Alice Kuunji. Aoko had gauged the strength of Alice's defense with her initial shots. She would dial up the power 5 times the next time, driving 20 tons of force into her target. Alice had the protection of the thick hanging fog and the dense barrier around her. However, this music right now, it's so intense. However, this attack would be more than enough to pierce through both. It's that part I love. Okay, if Aoko struck home, at best it would cave in Alice's crest and end the fight. At worst, it would at least knock Alice down from her position atop the clock tower. So true, man. As always, there was one guy who spoiled the deadly tension, pulling Aoko out of killer mode. Sojiro had been looking back and forth between Aoko and Alice in confusion. Oh man. He said it like he might ask it for directions on the track. Yo, for real, man, Sojiro, just be quiet and watch. Wait until the end. Normally she would have lashed out screaming in response, but his entirely serious tone shocked her more than it angered her. Aoko regretting all this now. Aoko swallowed back a sigh and returned her focus to activating her crest.
ちょっと怒らせすぎた。あの子から見れば、まあいい機会だし、遊園地ごと私を亡き者にしようって腹ね。I should put more water in that, man.
Okay. I expect this might be a good chance of coming off along with the tower theme park, huh? Okay. Sojiro tilted his head, as if begging for a simple explanation.
私、割とあの子に恨まれてるから。捕まったが最後。どんな風に殺されるか想像すらできないわ。要するに、あんたも私もあの子をどうにかしないと生きて帰れないってことよ。
Okay.
そんなとばっちりだ。
Man, you were the start of this quarrel.
まあ、そういうことになるかもね。
As Sojiro protested in a tone wholly inappropriate to the situation, Aoko let another blast from her right arm. She was not aiming at Sojiro though. A little earlier in the day, and Aoko would have been happy to do exactly that, but now her attention was focused on the girl in black atop the clock tower. Hey! Oh, okay, she brought over some Pegasus. She could hardly grasp the situation amidst her astonishment. She fired the strongest, fastest magic bullet she had the ability to conjure, and Alice blocked it. That was to be expected. When Alice set her mind to defending herself, such an attack was child's play. But what just happened? Something she had never seen before had leapt into Alice's defense. A team of horses? A plague of locusts? No, those things existed in this No, no, those things existed in this world, unlike what Alco had just witnessed. Normal creatures could not form like a spontaneous cloud of fog and then dissipate just as quickly into the night sky. Yeah, what? That thing was creepy. What the heck? Like, unless it took me. I was trying to process that as she was saying what. Impossible things moved in impossible ways. Alice was not even supplying them with magic power, with any magic source, any power source. Those things never needed power in the first place. Those broken and discarded things did not follow the rules of mankind. This was an invasion of fairy tales. Compared to them, the automation looked merciful. Autonomous puppets were products of magecraft, but even then they behaved as puppets should. These newly animated things, however, were nothing of that sort. Empty vessels became living creatures. Dummies warped into malformed beings. There was a fog so dense that with magical energy, it visibly spread all corners of the park, bringing with it monstrous welcoming parties that easily numbered over 1,000. She's blasting. Spurred on by the shuddering sensation running down her spine, Alco fired a barrage of single-action magic bullets. Tuh! No damage. Her impulsive attack shattered futilely. The night of the merry-go-round soared into the sky. Green fire-breathing lizards flocked, and bakeries opened their doors once again, and human-sized loaves of bread, fresh bread, marched from their ovens as platoons of newly baked soldiers. Alco and Soju were completely surrounded. The Ferris wheel creaked as it gently turned. A rickety train car raced out. Hold up, y'all. What's that sound? I've been hearing. I knew I heard a sound in the house. I was like, wait, hold up. There's someone. I was like, hold up. Is someone in the house? Yeah, someone opened the door. I was like, creep the heck out of me. Okay, the rickety train car raced around about the roller coaster tracks with Kitsy, tears streaming down his face aboard. This grossly twisted fantasy. The growing black reigned over this insanely fueled park. Oh, now we're screwed. You think now you're screwed, Alco? Man, the moment you challenged Alice, I knew it. Alco was transfixed by the scene unfolding around her. Then she realized what was happening. Alice had once told her of Meister's familiars. Among them were 3 of particularly notoriety, one of which she recalled being capable of something similar to this, and it was called... Ooh, okay. Yeah, what? Struck by Alco's bullets, the creatures exploded into splinters. It was clear Alco's shots were becoming more powerful, but it was also the case of these beings were less robust than your average Automa. Alco turned away from the clock tower, grabbed his hand, and began to run. Wait, bro, you're about to be killed. Can you run? Yeah, Alice has that eagle-eye perspective on the top. She shouted as though trying to persuade herself as she valiantly cleared a path. Akko's magic bullets flew like a scream. Blowing away the creatures that stood in their way, or rather, simply gathered around, she made a hole for them to escape through. Okay. Okay, I'm about to say, yo, I ain't no way that's the end of the chapter. Oh, brilliant. Okay, magic bullets exploded like blue fireworks. Akko and Sojiro ran the bumpy brick road. Their bond forged with the heat of battle went far beyond mutual convenience. They headed for the park's exit at full speed without exchanging a word or a look. The weirdness only extended as far as the park border, so they would be safe as long as they made it outside. Oh, yeah, it is loaves of bread, people, okay. But, speaking in pure members, the difference in strength was 2 versus an army. Or rather, 1 versus an army. Sojiro was hardly useful in this situation. And, man, power wasn't really the issue here, since they were facing puppets. Akko shouted as she blasted away the monsters that stood in their path. There was no time to stop for breath, or even to look back. As Sojiro pursued, his voice too had naturally become shrill. 5 minutes earlier, they had broken down out of the siege of the plaza surprisingly fast. It seemed that the residents' awakening differed case by case, with larger creatures taking additional time. Akko joked as she mowed down the small fry that popped up. But then, without warning, something outrageous extended its way down from above them. It was the claws of the 60-foot lobster adorning the roof of a seafood restaurant. Its pincers were like a guillotine. As Akko and Sojiro cut across the front of the restaurant, the Red King pressed at a tremendous speed, keen on splitting each of them in 2. Oh man, this part, I love this OST right here. The gate was on the other side of the restaurant, but they had to take the long way around in order to lose the giant lobster snapping at their heels. Waiting along the detour had been a horde of monsters, too many to count. Sojiro called out in response, recalling just how narrowly he had avoided his head being severed clean from his body. Akko halted her sprint and set her crest into full operation. Sliding along the brick path, she brandished her right arm. She loosed a shower of magic bullets. Okay. Snap was a single action spell that favored rate of firepower and it mowed down the monsters with satisfying props.
青崎そっちも
Okay, Sojiro, thank you for saying something. He's trying to contribute with his eyes at least. Blue explosions boomed along the lamplit promenade. Alco's curtain of fire fanned out like a beautiful stream, like Star Mine fireworks show. The toy bread man turned to charcoal.
いける数でこそ押されてるけどこの状態が続くなら逃げ切れる
Okay.
しずきくんそっちは。
いない空いてるここからなら入り口の東側に出られるはずだ
With a magical barrage that would leave an average spellcaster blue in the face, the novice mage broke through the siege. There's that blue bird again. Meanwhile, a single bird keenly watched everything unfold. That blue bird has been popping up. Chirp, cheep, 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 chirp. The moment the blue bird descended into its master's field of vision, it made its high-pitched call. The girl listened expressionlessly to the report.
構わないわ。予想通りよ。撃つこと、壊すことしか能がなくても、青子の魔力の使い方は波じゃないから。急増の使い魔じゃ、まだ相手にはならないでしょう。
Robin flapped his wings as if tweeting in response. Perhaps it was criticizing Alice for complimenting Alco. She's like, yo, a bird like, bro, isn't that your, like, enemy? Like, or perhaps it was jealous of Alco for being complimented by Alice. Alice could barely make sense of its chirping rant. Alco Ozaki was a novice mage. Until just 2 years ago, she was someone who grew up with no background in magecraft. Compared to Alice, who was raised as a witch from birth, Alco possessed far less talent and experience. Yep. Winning was an impossibility for Alco. In the context of skills in magecraft, 10 times out of 10, Alice would be declared the victor. However, a battle to the death was a different story. Alice Kuinji was not a mage suited for battle. Alco Aozaki, on the other hand, was built for it. Yep. It's like no matter how many skills like you possess, there are just some things you're not suited for, you know, in a way. Like hey, you're good at this, but hey, you can't fight. It's like someone who's good at teaching, but I don't know. I can't think of a good analogy. I'm trying to think of something like that, but yeah, I guess that can be like that. Some people are really good at learning things, but they may not be good at teaching it, you know? Like, just because someone's really knowledgeable doesn't mean that make them a good teacher all of a sudden. Why my frames drop? What happened? Okay, I think I'm good. Anyways, in the contest that pitted magical energy against magical energy, even Alice would concede that Alco had the upper hand. Alco's manipulation of magical energy was extraordinary. The scale of her magic circuits was smaller than that of Alice's, but the rotational speed, durability, and quality of magical energy produced, not to mention the efficiency, were otherworldly. That was Alco Aozaki's hallmark. Though she had many failings when handling sophisticated formulae, in just 2 years of practice, Alco had surpassed Alice in simple formulae that merely required an energy input. She also had the genius-level instincts and adaptability. Though Alco was not particularly proficient at executing magecraft, she was extremely fast. She had been born outside of the Aozaki clan. She would have doubtlessly risen to fame as a competitive sharpshooter. Tuh. Yeah, imagine if she was raised to also be like, if her sister like decided not to be like the head or whatever, or I forget, her sister like went on a trip or something, whatever. Well, she's back, but you know, imagine how like powerful Alco could have been at this point, if even stronger possibly. But in a straight shootout, Alice did not stand a chance. Alice Kuinjo had never bothered to learn primitive magecraft like magic bullets in the first place. She was the classic She was a classic puppeteer. Her familiars would carry out all the particulars of battle as her arms and legs.
制限時間には気づいているわよね、青子。魔力はいくらでも貸してあげるけど、あなたの魔弾はあと半時で値崩れするわ。
She's gonna use up all of her like mana or something? Magic energy? The chirping as if in agreement, the robin took flight. It had been nearly 10 minutes since Alice had made the amusement park into her dominion. So what would the green fog give birth to next? Ako and Sojiro, still running about, would soon come to understand the gravity of the situation.
Shizuki-kun, 正門ってこっち?
ああ、その店を曲がれば出口だ。
Then Sojiro, remember the whole map? Well, I mean, he was working here like a bit, so... Running non-stop at full speed had them at their limits, their breath ragged, and the two dragged the two around the corner. Amusement park, though, was... Amusement park, though it was, this was still the infamous Kitsy Land. It would have taken a high school student 20 minutes to sprint the entire circumference of the park. Really? Wow. And though they were now intimately familiar with the park's geography. Ooh. Is that a dragon in the background? Man, all these bread people. Or bread familiars. It was changing beyond recognition. Oh, my bad. The transformation was not limited to the park's residents either.
青崎、
何を?
言いたくないんだけど、この遊園地広くなってないか?
It was. The problem wasn't as mundane as mistaken location of the exist or lost in the terrain. No, the park was warping and twisting in upon itself. Even now, its structure was expanding and growing like that of a living creature. Soon the pair noticed that the mob encircling them had grown even stronger. Entrusting her back to Sojiro, Ako summoned all of her effort just to keep from whining. No one would have thought twice if it had been just Sojiro cowering in shock and terror. But Ako doing the same? She bore responsibility for causing and then dragging him into this mess. She could not afford to succumb to panic.
大丈夫。落ち着け私。遊園地の果てはある。遠いけど、鉄柵はちゃんと見える。フラットスナークだって制限なしってわけじゃない。外に逃げるって選択は正しいはず。現状、外までは目算で1キロぐらいだけど。
Up until now, they had been too concerned with simply running. Their breathing had become labored. If they had to run another mile without rest, they'd end up collapsing along the way.
体大丈夫か?
The whisper from behind pulled Ako back to reality.
大丈夫だけど、ちょっと一息入れたいわね。
賛成。ここから休みなしで外周まで走るのはやめた方がいい。
驚いた。しずきくんも外まで走ろう派とは。
After saying this, she let slip a giggle. Okay. Far from debilitated by panic, her comrade in arms had been analyzing the situation and forming an escape plan.
ちょっとだけ建物に逃げ込むのは。
気は進まないけど、それしかないわね。
Okay, Sojiro. The bread men had them completely surrounded. Perhaps this might have been a problem for an average person, but for Ako, breaking through the formation to get to the building would be a cinch. The issue was,
問題はどんな店を選ぶかってこと。
which one would be the safest and which one would also provide the most defense. She considered the characteristics of the transforming park. What would pose a danger and what was safe? The most important factor was not the strength or the complexity of the building.
そうだ。選ぶならあの単純さで正しいはず。しずきくん、あっち。
Achi! Come on, man. After rooting After routing the monsters, Ako hopped behind the counter, soon followed by Sojiro.
カウンターに隠れてて。
While she was in a western shootout, Ako squared off against the monsters, using the counter as cover. Sojiro like, dang! Blasting like crazy.
ビンゴ。ここならスナーク化しないんだ。
After assessing the current state of the enemy, Ako sat herself under the counter.
あいつらは
店の周りで地団打踏んでるわ。理由があってね。
Ako gave the perplexed Sojiro a grin and took a deep breath. She heaved a heavy sigh of relief and fatigue.
とりあえずコーヒーブレイクね。ここは遊園地の中でも遊びのない場所だから、あいつらにとっては鬼門なのよ。レジスターも調理器具も最近のものだし、擬人化されたマスコットもないし、スナーク化するにはちょい文明犬すぎるってこと。
Okay, so the snark, the familiar, they said, yo, I like some goofy stuff, not this regular stuff.
あいつらの名前よ。つけたのは私じゃなくてアリスなのかしらね。あ
Yeah,
の子の
I
性
know.
格的にちょっと想像できないけど、まあとにかくそういう名前。
Perhaps now at ease from knowing they were safe, Sojiro seemed enthralled with her explanation. Ako could not help but chuckle as Sojiro nodded sagely, as it was certain that he had no idea what she was talking about. Normally this would have irritated her, but this time she was grateful for the warmth of his strange sobriety.
それはともかく
Sobriety.
調子良さそうだな、青崎。
Mistaking her smile for composure, Sojiro broke into a smile himself. It was another link in a chain of misunderstandings, but there was no need to redress it.
あなたから見てもわかる？私のマダンの威力が上がっているの。
そりゃミラーハウスで散々追いかけ回されたからな。あの時と同じ動作なのに物騒さが増していれば嫌でもわかる。
For better or worse, yeah, true.
でもいいのか？確か数に限りがあるとか言ってただろ。
Yeah, that's what I was
もう随分撃
wondering.
っちまったけど、20、30じゃ効かないぞ。
I was wondering, but she did say that earlier, and I was going to actually readdress that at some point, but I'm glad he brought it up.
あんた、時々あれよね。
Her opinion of him improved, just a little.
なんでもない。私のマダンの威力が上がっているのは単純に魔力の濃度の問題。さっきから霧がかかってるでしょ？あれ、全部魔力なのよ。
Okay, and that's also what Alice was also referring to for a second, too. Magical energy was divided into two broad categories. First was OD, or Odd, produced by a mage's body. Second was mana, which filled the atmosphere. At the moment, the amusement park had turned into a fairy tale land, overflowing with mana. Although this meant nothing to the average person, to a mage it was a paradise where spells could be cast as much as one pleased. Okay.
じゃあ残り魔力とやらは気にしなくていいのか。注意すべきは怪我と体力だけ。
Mm-hmm.
まあ、個人的な責任においてはその限りね。
Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief. From Sojiro's perspective, more so than the monsters she mowed down, Ako was the biggest bully on the playground. He had been concerned about what would happen should her magical energy be exhausted, but luckily for him, she was far from surrendering her crown.
頼りにしてくれるのは嬉しいけど、ぬか喜びよ。あんな雑魚たち、ただ動いているだけのガラクタなんだから。スナーク本体は当然として、アリスが他の童話の怪物を出してきたら、私じゃどうにもならない。
他の童話の怪物。遊園地をこんな風に変えたやつ以外にまだいるのか？
そう。プロイキッシャーって名付けられた。
Oikishas.
私たちでさえ目を背けたくなる反則。
Huh.
不可能な夢物語をも再現する時代に取り残されたデタラメよ。
Oikishas. Okay. Sojiro's expression seemed to be calling her out on the hypocrisy.
あのね、私たちはちゃんと現代に寄り添った魔術師よ。
Yeah. Yeah, wait, what? It's funny.
できないこともあるし、当たり前のことだけど、近代兵器にはかなわない。20世紀、まあ、いろんな戦争の後押しで、 兵器の進化は私たちを超えちゃったから。けどあの子のは違う。どんなに人間の技術が進歩しようと関係ないって怪物なの。例えばあのブレッドマンいるでしょ。あいつには自動拳銃とか効かないわよ。多分意味が分かっていないから。
Okay, I follow. Akko casually gestured this outside, past the counter.
アリスの使い魔は全てが空想によってこねられた神秘なの。前提からしてありえないことだから、通常の物理法則と折り合いが悪い。空想と現実は両立しないっていうごく当たり前の理由でね。
Makes sense, makes
なる
sense.
ほど。ブレッドマンってのはあの動く焼きたてパンのことなんだな。
Sojiro seemed to have ignored the majority of Akko's explanation and only reacted to the part that caught his curiosity.
話を戻すけど、あいつらと近代兵器の相性は最悪。ロケット弾でも効果はないわ。意思の疎通、秩序の共有ができてないから。プロイキッシャーにとって彼らの世界には存在しないもの、意味がわからないものは触れることなく無賛する。彼らに通じるのは同じ神秘を帯びた魔力だけっていうデタラメぶりよ。もう完全に概念空間っていうか概念宇宙っていうか。
Same Sojiro, man. I'm like listening and reading this, and I follow most of it.
要するにあいつらは伝承防御っていう特別なルールを持っていて、単純に強い力、強い魔術じゃ効果は薄いの。元になった童話にちなんだ欠点をつかないと倒せない。
Ensure they exist according to special laws. They can't be taken down without exploiting the weakness found in the original stories. Okay.
ギリシャ神話のアキレスあたり分かりやすい例えなんだけど。
That's a good straightforward example. Attack his Achilles. Sojiro shook his head. Bro, man, don't make her tell the whole story.
無事帰れたら飛び丸あたりに教えてもらって。定番だけどいい話よ。あれ。
Yeah, okay, good. Sojiro was feeling pretty lost, but he did his best to grasp the situation. He thought that ploy kishas were scary enough to chase Akko and that puppet from before out of the house barefoot. Certainly the scene before them was the stuff of nightmares. But Sojiro had a different way of thinking.
やっぱり青崎の方が怖くないか。
Oh yeah, because she understands the danger.
あんた死ぬの？
Yeah, Sojiro, man. Sojiro waved in protest, silently pointing out that she had made this case for him. His case
あのね、
for him.
今私たちを取り囲んでるのはおまけに過ぎないの。アリスにとってあのブレッドマンもロブスターもソーセージ屋のミンチマシーンも全部が全部私が撃ってる魔弾より価値がない。いい？あの動くマスコットたちはね、ただのおまけなの。アリスが解放した童話の怪物の一呼吸みたいなものなのよ。
呼吸ってこれが？
私だって考えたくないわよ。でもそれが現状。たった一体の童話の怪物だけで私たちは手一杯。そういうわけだからアリスがあと一体でも追加したら諦めて。
追加ってこれに制限はないのか？
あの子が出し惜しみしなければまだ何体かストックはあるでしょうけど、まあ成立する条件はあるわね。
Of course there is.
例えば川がないと目を覚まさない怪物もいる。この遊園地噴水はあるけど川はないでしょ。
Okay, so
元になった
okay.
童話縛りなの。
That makes sense.
童話って
But that'd just be too overkill right there. Wow, bold soul new.
こ
What?
こに川がないのは不幸中の幸いね。もしあったらもっと直接制圧に向いたやつが出てきてた。
Akko continued, completely ignoring Sojiro. Please, thank you, because I don't know what he was talking about right there.
話の続きだけど、アリスの魔術の基本はマザーグース
Mother Goose.
って知らないか。イギリスの歌で
I
遊び
know
心
that
に
story
富んだ
kind of. Like,
メ
yeah,
ルヘ
that
ンチッ
nursery
クな
rhyme,
内容
yeah.
よ。ただそっち系のプロイキッシャーは怖くないの。みんなそれなりになんとか魔術にも落とし込める範囲だから。
聞きたくないんだけど、そっち系じゃないのは？
マザーグースを下地にしたとある創作童話系。あの子のお母さんが好きでね。こっち系のはどいつもこいつも尋常じゃない。で この遊園地を生き返らせたのはこっち系よ。多分フラットスナークってやつだと思う。私も聞き流していたから詳しくはわからないけど。
Okay. Sojiro swallowed the discomfort making its way up his throat. He really wanted her to explain things a little less vaguely, but something she had just said necessitated further investigation.
待て青崎。あの子の話を聞き流したってなんで？
That's what caused attention?
いや、説明してもらったのは随分と前だし、あの頃はアリスの話あんまり信じられなかったのよね。
This dude Aoko over here, like
私が素人だと思って大げさに自分の魔術を語ってくれてるな、舐められてるなとか。
Well, Aoko, I think it's something you're going to regret. Yo, Last Life, yo, what's up? Yo, I appreciate that. In truth, if anyone hadn't taken the lesson seriously, it was Aoko. She would learn that lesson firsthand soon enough when she experienced just how real Alice's monsters were. She'd also discover how heretical the Meister witches truly were in the world of magecraft. I'm just one actually commenting about difference of mages and witches and stuff like that, but okay, interesting. So I put a bounded field, yeah. Okay.
忘れられたものを童話的に蘇らせるやつで、今まで誰も破ったことがないとか。それでついたあだ名が触れられぬもの。
The untouchable.
フラットスナークじゃないのか？
So it's two? Or
それもあだ名。とにかく正体がわからないやつばっかり
Oh,
なんで、一つの個体に複数の名前が付けられるの。フラットスナークはその中でも正体不明さはトップランクのデタラメぶりよ。あなた、ルイス・キャロルのスナーク狩りって本知ってる？
The Hunting Book of Snark by Lewis Carroll. I know the name Lewis Carroll, but I never heard of the hunting of the Snark.
いや、そもそもルイス・キャロルというのは
Lewis. Oh
そっ
man.
からか。ドジスン教授はそうね。
We're
特
getting
殊
a lot
性
of
癖を持った妄想
background
紳士
stuff right here. Like,
まあこっちは別にどうでもいいか。人によ
okay.
っては時間の無駄だろうし。
Yeah, not in this situation.
今重要な
Sum
の
it
は
up.
彼が残した著作の方。スナーク狩りはね、スナークって呼ばれる正体不明の怪物を捕まえようと奔走する
Oh,
冒
actually,
険家たちの話なの。
okay. I have heard of this. I didn't know that's what it's called though.
キャロルらしい皮肉ばっちり、死理滅裂、意味不明、結末不在の本当に困った本で、一行は島で苦しみつつ最終的にはスナークを見つけるものの、見つけたベイカーは唐突に姿を消して終わ
And
って
the
しま
baker
う。
suddenly disappearing.
よくわからないもの探しに奔走する人間の風刺なんだけど、この遊園地において誰がベイカーで何がスナークかは言うまでもないでしょ。
Akko elected not to share this, but Flat Snark, I mean, had other popular names as well. The enigmatic island, the five-dimensional plane. These names were not given to it by Alice, but rather muttered by mages whom the Meisters defeated. Wow. In mathematics, snark is a term used in the graph theory to refer to contradictory and impossible planar graphs. A plane proven to be unable to exist in this world was given the name apt for an ill-fated existence non-paradoxical in nature. The fairy tale monster ascribed this name was said to hold no form discovered by man. Okay. Akko also declined to mention something else. Flat Snark was a fairy tale monster that could grow. It would hide somewhere in the amusement park, continuously exhaling magical energy until the park completely transformed into a fantasy land. Okay, just like what's happening right now.
脅かしてもしょうがないし。
何か言ったか？
別に。簡単に言って童話世界の再生がフラットスナークの力なの。この遊園地との相性は抜群でしょうね。何しろ元々が童話を元にした遊び場だから。
If this had been a business district, for example, flat snark would have posed far less of a threat. But since our amusement park is okay, that makes sense. At most, its power would be limited to projecting the shadow of a dinosaur into a building's window panes. I do like that taking the time to explain like stuff, you know, and dive into it, you know, rather than just saying something and never going back to it. Soichiro realized that something was wrong when he noticed a glutinous liquor dripping down to his into his back. Bro. He looked up at the ceiling. Their eyes met. Before he had a chance to think, Soichiro hopped up from the floor. Taking the initiative, he jumped out from behind the counter. Busy trying to stop him from committing an act of suicide, she also came to her feet. Immediately she noticed something being brought to life overhead. Yeah, heck no. Yeah, Soichiro Soichiro wasted no time, man. Yo. The gargantuan mouth clamped shut. With no mascot to speak of, the burger joint itself began to transform into one giant monster. Yeah, for real. Alco aired out her grievances as she ran. There was no safe haven left. Moment by moment, the left remnants of civilization were being eroded away by the fairy tales. Dang! Okay, dragon. American Dragon, Jake, what is it, Jake Long or something? The music park had, that was a nice song though, in the opening. Anyways, the music park had reached the final stage of snarkification. It was not just the mascot characters that had been granted life. Like the burger joint, even the buildings had begun to transform. The roller coaster that made its way about the park writhed and twisted like a Chinese dragon. Alco and Soichiro stared, dumbfounded by the Ferris wheel, which had grown to over 250 feet in height. Hordes of breadmen closed in on them, as if to offer tickets. Mobs of trinkets, actual kickshaws, rampaged the park. Whenever a hole was punched in the envelopment, it was instantly filled. It was a battle of attrition with no end in sight. But that was a matter of course, as there were few fairy tales about limited resources. True. Yeah, they're just gonna keep spawning in, never ending. Oh, destroy that? Okay. You mean like that stuffed animal thing next to you? That creepy thing? Man, heck no. I need an example. Soichiro, look around you. Alco paused her firing for a moment. After saying this out loud, she realized just how deep their grave was dug. The amusement park was a treasure trove of fairy tale-esque creatures on any given day. Who could say what was impossible amidst the newly transfigured knickknacks running around? That's true, it could be anything. Hiding in plain sight. Hoping that she was wrong, Alco bit her bottom lip. Flat snark was the type of ploy that deployed bounded fields. Seeing as it was commanding so many familiars, it would not be unusual for its main body to have a little or no defenses. Furthermore, if it was modeled from a story about it being untouchable and identifiable, it would be logical to assume that it would be collapsed on itself shortly after being discovered.
逆に言えば見つければ私たちの勝ち。
Okay, so we got our Where's Waldo type game now.
雑魚に紛れ込む。木の葉を隠すなら森の中って言うけど。
Huh. This was closest to the truth than Alko realized. As long as there was the slightest possibility of it being hit by one of Alko's stray bullets, it would not dare appear in front of them. Its true form was orchestrating the park from somewhere safe.
でもどこかに見えているはず。スナークは本の主題だもの。常にページのどこかにいないと主人公の資格がない。
But where? Thinking in the most basic terms, the Ferris wheel was very safe, as well as the symbol of the park itself, perhaps.
あの子を捕まえるのは
Her eyes opened wide at the sudden suggestion. While Alka had been trying to come up with a plan to overcome this stalemate, it seemed Sojiro had been racking his brain as well. His proposal was a simple one. If they could not find the snark, they just needed to take out its master, Alice. Alice had not moved at all from the clock tower. Even from here, they could make out her figure, draped in moonlight.
それは一番ダメ。アリスを殺してもフラットスナークは止まらないし、このトンデモが外に溢れ出すことになる。
Yo, Sojiro said, "Hey, what if we stopped her?" Yo, Alko said, "Yo, even if we killed her," it's like, dang. Okay. I know she's saying even if we kill, just an example, but like, man. So even killing wouldn't stop Snark. So, a breadman, angered at the insults, hurled toward its master, moved to attack, and was mercilessly burned to a crisp. The two stood back to back, catching their breath. With no plan to speak of and no route to escape, they had reached rock bottom. Meanwhile, the oddities were forming a circle around their prey, as if they smelled blood in the water. Were they to be dragged into the bakery for the oven? Minced at the meat grinder at the butcher shops? Skewered and paraded around atop the carousel? Yeah. Thorny pirate ship? Yeah. After tears of slumber, they were eager to welcome their new guests.
一応聞いておきたいんだけど。
何？手短にね。今考え事してるから。
ああ、あの連中が何をしたいか嫌っていうほど伝わってくるんだけど、それってあの子の趣味なのかな？
Good question.
その疑問はなかったわ。
Yeah, she's like, yo, Alice isn't like a mean person, but you know.
連中の人間嫌いは遊園地の怨念とフラットスナークの性格じゃない。基本的にまともなやついないから、アリスの使い魔って。あ、でも。
I wasn't able to deny that there were some similarities.
それは結構。それで、青崎の考え事って
Sojiro over giving some ideas, man.
期待させて悪いけどお手上げ。ま、あんたが殺されれば止まるでしょうけど。
それは嫌だ。とりあえず逃げよう。
He said, "Hey, plan does not involve me being dead."
え、しずきくん
Yo, we really left again. She blinked in surprise at the sudden turn of events. Sojiro, who had until now been meekly following her lead, had grabbed Alko's hand and pulled her with him to a suicidal charge towards the swarm of bread in an attempt to break out of the encirclement.
意味わかんなすぎ。なんで今の流れでそうなるのよ、あんたは。
Alko nonetheless followed Sojiro's uncharacteristically gung-ho lead, cursing him all the while. Sojiro would not be able to break through the surrounding wall of enemies with brute force. Alko regained her bearings and let fly a spray of magic bullets ahead of Sojiro. They broke through the net and ran as hard as they could. At this point, all that was left to do was what they had planned from the outside, aim to get out of the park. But not before addressing what needed to be addressed.
なんでよ、さっきはあんなに諦めよかったのに。
Aoko could not begin to comprehend Sojiro's reaction.
ミラーハウスの時と今は違うだろ。いいから走れ。
違わないわよ。あんたを殺そうとした私も、あんたを殺したいアリスも。理由
He said, hey, it depends on who's doing it. Before he was like, hey, if it's someone like you, or if it was her, then he was okay with it before, but he's like, yeah, I don't know Alice. I don't know Alice like that. Say, I know Aoko though. Though she wondered what was getting her so worked up, Aoko did not stop. She told herself that the degree of Sojiro's stupidity charging the breadmen so recklessly had caused her to lose her cool.
あのね、一緒に逃げてるぐらいで勘違いしないでくれる？言っとくけど私、明日になったらまたあんたを殺しに行くから。死にたくないってんなら、ここで私からも逃げ出したら？
それはまた今度の話だろう。だいたい青崎に殺されるのならいいけど、あの子に殺されるのは嫌だ。
だからなんで？
だって顔も知らない。話したことさえない相手だ。
Huh? It was like someone had doused water over her blazing fury. Aoko's anger was snuffed out by the absurd simplicity of his reasoning.
顔も知らないって。
Could it be that Sojiro did not mind being killed by someone as long as he had met them? Aoko chased behind them, grimacing at the ever-increasing incomprehensibility of it all. It is incomprehensible, but to an extent, I kind of understand you, Sojiro, to an extent. Oh man! From her spot atop the circle clock tower, the girl observed the growth of her familiar, flat snark, a savior of the discarded. It was a vile, vulgar fairy tale monster who provided those abandoned by fate with a glitter of hope before snatching it away. Alice had it under control, but she was still keen to keep the snark from expressing its bad habits. After completing a lap around the park that had now reached the size of an entire town, the robin made its situation report.
そう。外を目指しているの。
It seemed Aoko was prioritizing the safety of the boy. Even if it resulted in wasting an entire day, choosing to not capitulate on the decision was very much like her.
青子のことだから、時計台ごと私を焼き払いに来るかと思ったけど。
The bluebird cheeped in response. It was denying its master's portrait of Aoko, or agreeing that it was Aoko's style to do exactly that. An outsider might interpret its interjections either way.
退屈？
Robin jumped at being addressed so unexpectedly. It chirped and flapped its wings like a flustered servant, frantic to say otherwise.
珍しく気があったわね。
Okay, yo, what's up? Welcome.
いいわ。せっかくのゲームだし、もう少しだけ盛り上げましょう。
Okay. Oh, where's she holding that egg? What you about to do? Calmly, she pulled out a small object from her pocket. It was a dark gray Easter egg, and emanating from inside it was the ticking of a clock. Oh, that's what that is? The robin knew it to be a ploy kickshaw with a bad attitude, far exceeding flat snarks known to be amongst the best in one-on-one situations.
いってらっしゃい。称える時間は20分に設定したわ。
20 minutes.
いつも通り。控えめに壊れてきて。
Okay, so we got 20 minutes to survive. And together with the witch's breath, the egg filled with praise disappeared. Suddenly a strong wind swept through the park. The words, "I could have killed them all by myself," floated through the air. It was the disappointment of something enormous that it was both visible yet overlooked. Was a snark over here like, yo, I could have done this by myself. I don't need no backup. I thought about to be in another chapter. I was about to say, whoa, that was quick. Even though I've been streaming for over an hour. But Aoko and Sojiro continued to dash towards the boundary separating the park from outside. The curio horde that stood in their way had reduced in number. The iron fence had separated the two from the outside world, was just over 300 yards away. Fortunately, there were no particular large buildings barring their path. If the Ferris wheel had stood in their way, what would have spelled the end? But thankfully, it had yet to reach its full strength. The only thing that appeared before them were weak oddities that could easily be handled by Aoko's simple magecraft. She would have said make it to the fence, and her lungs would only allow it. Since Aoko was utilizing the ample mana filling the park, her tank of magical energy was nearly full. Coupled with the fact that the condition of her body circuits was steadily improving to the extent that she would be able to unleash a full one all-out onslaught. Until, above her field of vision, something unusual was hovering. It was locked on Sojiro, hovering 10 feet above him, over to one side.
Shizuki-kun, ちょっと。
さっきからついてきてる。
Sojiro seemingly noticed it before Aoko, hence his previous awkward glances toward the sky. In truth, it would have been stranger for him to not notice the thing was practically glued to him. Yeah, that don't look good. In terms of size, the floating object measured about 3 feet in diameter. Okay. Tiles covered its exterior, about which a multitude of spinning lights danced about. Okay. Sojiro asked, not really sure what to call it.
卵って言ったら割れる卵。
And what happens when it cracks? No damage. Her bullets bounced off like it was made of rubber. The trait, the ability to deflect all outside interferences, confirmed to Aoko that this thing was undoubtedly a ploy kickshaw.
やっぱり外からのルールじゃ壊れないか。しずきくん、あれから絶対に目をそらさないで。いい？何があっても見続けること。視界の隅に入れとくだけでいいから。
Oh, like this thing's a problem. It's a threat. Aoko picked up her pace as she barked orders. The Eggman who sat on the wall. He would crack just as the tale spoke of. Nothing anyone could do or say would cause him to fall, but the moment they stopped looking, he would tumble down and break into pieces.
いわく、王様の軍隊でも元に戻せない数の破片。
Yeah, Humpty Dumpty. It was the Mother Goose poem, Humpty Dumpty. If Sojiro was its target, then the moment he averted his gaze, it would tumble and explode.
爆発するかどうかは知らないけど。
Exactly. What happens when it cracks? Either way, it was going to scatter something troublesome when it fell. Its oval shape and keyhole adorning the front, and writing inscribed upon it, they made her anxious. Excuse me. If it was an egg, it meant it was going to hatch at some point. Even if he continued to stare, once the time came for whatever was inside to come out, they would have to have even less ability to conserve their energy.
青崎、早すぎないか。あまり全力で走ると。
後のことは考えないで。
Oh.
いいからしずきくんは卵だけに集中して。
With this critical juncture, Breadmen stepped out to join the egg and block their path. No, I know, these bread people are annoying. The Breadmen were marching forth in a grand battalion. At her level of firepower, Aoko should have easily mowed them down. However, they just keep coming. They were baked. If Snap failed to do the job, that meant it was time for her to put her crest to use. Draw formula triggered bullets, encased with the full wind jacket. In her previous shots were the equivalent of a machine gun volley. This is her artillery shot. Nice. The hard crust bread had absorbed her snap without a dent, scattering into 1,000 tiny pieces. Okay. At her jaw's torrent. Of course, the destruction did not end with just the breadmen. Sending bricks flying, the previously paved road was now bare. The nearby stall had turned into a skeleton of steel beams. It was a spectacle that made Sojiro question which force, the wall of the breadmen or Alco's ability to lay waste to things, would obstruct their path more.
ちょっとなんで距離取るのよそこ。ほらもっとこっち。言っとくけど、あんたがあいつらに囲まれちゃったらアウトよ。私人質とか意味ないタイプだし、そもそも区別して撃つとかそういうのできないし。
Huh. This made a lot of sense to Sojiro. He had not fully appreciated the part about hostages, but he got the gist of it.
つまり今はどこであろうと危険なのか。
Yeah, man, sadly,
あん
but
たね。
who would you rather be with right now? Like, offended though, she was by his typical naive response. She could not help but be impressed. Sojiro was a straight arrow through and through. His eyes stayed firmly focused on the egg overhead, even amidst the chaos of the melee unfolding before him. Melee?
その分なら安心か。
Yeah, what? Okay, later.
物分かりは悪いけど、一度言われたことはきっちり守るあたり。
そんなことより青崎、俺の気のせいならいいんだけど、さっきのパン硬くなかったか。
まあね、あいつら少しずつ強くなってきてるわ。大量生産が軌道に乗ったんで、今度はクオリティアップをテーマにしたのかも。しずきくんでもお察しの通り、ここからは手強くなっていく一方よ。あのパンたちでさえ個体差が出てきたみたいだし、考えたくないけど、そのうちジャム塗ったりレタス乗っけたり、果ては合体したりして。
Though she was joking, her eyes were dead serious. Sojiro shuddered at the thought of the situation growing even more dire.
じゃあそのうちミラーハウスの人形ぐらいに怖くなるのか、あいつら。
Uh-huh.
間違いなくね。
Okay.
そこまでレアなパンになったら、私も自分だけで手
Yeah,
一
you
杯
already had your hands full with that puppet, so... Sojiro shook his head, a look of complete aversion upon his face.
でしょ。なら急ぎましょう。いろいろ余裕ないんだから。
Akko took a quick deep breath and then began to sprint once again. Far in the distance, through the fog, the iron fence waited, 300 paces away. As long as nothing happened, they would make it there in one piece. Sojiro followed after Akko, holding on to that all-too-convenient hope. But hope was nothing, was something ever fleeting. It lasted not only 300 yards. The edge of the amusement park may well have been the edge of the world. Oh, going back to the city? They made it back? Oh. Well, that sucks. Dozens of undulating horizons could be seen, crowding the sky like a giant cloud, a thick curtain, or perhaps groaning lips. Oh. It was the end of the road, the lower limit, at the outer limit of an outrageous and fantastical realm. And yet, Akko found it to be much like the last page of an enormous picture book. Should we go and blast through all those? The sight turned her mind blank. Well, this was about as bad as it gets, she thought. The snark, this island of despair, had at least brought Akko to her knees as she stared at the swelling border. The park indeed had an end. Even now, as Akko and Sojiro had expected it to be, a fence divided the amusement park from the residential area neighboring it. It had both doubled in height and had been made sturdier, another hurdle she had foreseen before even laying eyes on it. Expecting it to have been snarkified, Alko had come prepared to demolish an obstacle or two. But this is not an obstacle or two. This is a dozen. Like, this construction before her went beyond a mere wall. It was an ocean that separated the underworld from the mortal one. The iron fence was like a restless, surging sea. 1 or 2 walls could easily be toppled. Even 10 or 20 could be dealt with one way or another. Between the power left in her body and that which filled the park, putting on a brave front was within her powers. She could fully mobilize her circuits and her crest to the point of burnout in the last-ditch effort, like some reenactment of the parting of the Red Sea. Even if a path could be opened, she would not have the energy left to walk it. And it was obvious what would become of her afterward. The residents would hardly forgive her for wreaking such havoc around their park. Like ants drawn to honey, they swarmed the helpless girl and tear her to pieces. Despondent and exhausted, she felt the faint sting of remorse, escaping the park. Looking back on how they had gotten here, Akko recognized that her choices had been her undoing. Under the golden moon, beams of steel bent and merged like the wire-frame sculptures. It was only a matter of time before the amusement park itself became one colossal monster. The horde of familiars gathered in the plaza where Alice was had formed an impenetrable blockade around her. Just above the head of the bully beside her, the whispering egg, called Scratch Dumpty, continued to shuffle what appeared on its surface.
Aozaki.
Shizuki-kun.
Why did you got man? The boy's voice snapped Alko out of her trance. If only for a moment. The stark reality of the situation quickly dawned on the novice mage. The sheer hopelessness of it all had ripped out and snatched away any will she had to resist.
ゲートに行こう。ここはどうしようもないけど、入り口ならもうちょっとマシだろ。フラットスナークだっけ。こいつにもルールがあるって言ったじゃないか。なら、これは役割の問題だ。初めから鉄柵は通れない壁だけど、ゲートなら出入り口として機能しているかもしれない。
Sojiro had not given in to panic. Alko found herself honestly admiring Sojiro's ability to analyze Snark's characteristics given the circumstances. Now calmly, she steeled her resolve.
そうね。確かに門はあると思う。けど、たどり着くのは難しいわ。
Yeah, I mean, it took them forever to get over here, and it was a challenge, but man.
広場や入り口にはもっと上等なのがたむろしてるだろうし、門だってあの観覧車以上の怪物かもしれない。確か大きなキッツィちゃんだったでしょ。
You want to fight a giant kitsy?
青崎はゲートには行かないのか。
まあね。それよりこっちの方が現実的だし。
Akko took another glance at the undulating iron fences. It was too late to achieve their goal of making it alive. In that case, she decided to prioritize the other promise she had made.
今からこの鉄柵を壊すから、あなたはそこから外に出て。それで、私の役割はおしまいよ。
Though her words were few, her tone told the whole story. She was telling Sojiro to escape by himself.
信じられない。こんなの青崎だけじゃ壊せないだろ。
私だけならね。でも、今はこの遊園地が味方してる。燃料
so she could give it her biggest blast of all
私は
time?
重心になるだけでいいんだし。ま、それでも一回が限度だから、穴を開けたら、あんたには全力で走り抜けてもらうしかないけど。
She would carve her path through this iron sea of fences. Gambling on one final effort, a great incantation to launch a massive projectile that pushed her limits to the extreme. As an outsider, Sojiro could not even begin to imagine just how much of a burden this would be for her. All he could imagine was a hazy vision of Akko being left behind in this park. What would happen to her? Oh, Sojiro over here trying to be like, I can't leave her alone. Would that girl in black come to save her? Cruel as it was to imagine, he knew she would not. After Ako had exhausted her very best in order to save him, that girl would not stay her hand. The only way Alice would let Ako off the hook was if Ako killed Sojiro as payment. Wow. And so, Sojiro he's going to say no.
20メートルぐらい離れてて、準備に手間取るけど、その卵の表面が茹で上がるまでには終わらせるから。
It went without saying that this was the only path.
待ってくれ。俺を逃がすって言うけど、それに意味はあるのか、青崎。
ないけど、外に出られたところでアリスから逃げ切れるとは思えないし、けど、これぐらいは最後の意地よ。守るって言ったんだから。
She stays true to her word. Respect. Surprised by her seemingly normal moral stance, Sojiro saw Alko in a new light. But of course, Sojiro realized that she was not fighting for his sake, but for the sake of her pride.
そうだったな。けど、それなら俺だけ逃がすのはらしくないぞ。
何よ。いいから離れてて。
For some reason, Alko took a step away from him. Since she was recalling how, an hour ago, he had gotten the better of her.
青崎、まだ意地を張れるんなら、他のことをやろう。このお化けみたいな鉄柵を壊せるなら、他に壊すべきものがあるはずだ。
ないわよ。悪いけど、私は目に見えるものしか壊せないの。最後まで形のない希望にすがるとか、考えるのも寒気がする。いい？今はフラットスナークなんかより、この壁を壊してあんたを足抜けさせるのが私の現実。私に負える最大限の責任って。
逃げるのか。
Ooh. Ako was just about to turn her back on him when Sojiro clutched her hand. His words caused something inside of her to boil with rage. It was as though someone had set her heart on fire. To surprise that pricked open her true feelings, and the disappointment she felt toward herself thawed her frozen limbs.
誰が逃げるのはそっちで、逃がしてあげるのはこっちだって言うのよ。甘く見ないで。いざとなったら遊園地ごと爆破してみせるわ。
Oh, man.
そうか。なら、ここで俺を逃がすのは無駄だな。その気迫は本命のために取っておこう。それまでは俺も手伝うから。
This is Sojiro, man. He just says it with like that earnest face.
は？手伝う？
He's so earnest, man.
それこそ無駄な気遣いよ。あったまきた。いいから逃げろバカ。だいたい走り詰めで息も絶え絶えなやつなんか使えないわよ。
Well, he's keeping watch of things. You know, there's that. Yo, what's up, man? Looking for Masterful 2? Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I enjoyed season 1. Yeah, I'm looking forward to season 2.
そういう青崎なんか、疲れ以上に傷の方が痛んでるだろ。
Injured and yeah, she is. Yeah, she's been going through a lot in this one night. Not to mention the injury to her back that Alko had nearly forgotten about. That's true. Even now, she couldn't ignore the pain that automation had inflicted on her spine. With iron will, she managed to push it out of her mind. Mostly.
ほら、魔術とか抜きにすれば、まだ俺の方がマシじゃないか。入り口までおぶっていくことぐらいなら、なんとか。
できないことは口にしないで。もういいから言って。慣れているもの、私は。でもあなたは違う。
It is.
だからいいの。
But he cares. The fact that they were a team. The fact that she would still have to kill him after all this. None of the irony was lost to her as she said those words. Because none of it mattered anymore. Still, Sojiro didn't let go of her hand. He gripped it even harder. His expression was the same as ever. Ako frowned, trying to figure out if he was upset with her.
確かに、こういうのは初めてだ。けど、山じゃ危険な目ぐらい合ってる。鹿に襲われたことだってあるんだぞ、俺は。
I think a deer doesn't compare to these magical things happening around, but okay. As a city girl, she had no idea what it meant to be attacked by a deer, but its determination was apparent enough. true. Looking back on it now, he had maintained his composure through it all. A normal person would barely be able to talk through such panic. Perhaps growing up deep in the mountains, far from civilization, had taught him how to stay calm in the face of so much.
だから信じてくれ。
He spoke his plain, unadulterated feelings, and released his hand. There was no lie in him. In fact, he was too honest, so much so that she found it hard to believe him. It'd be like, though, some people are just too honest, man, you know? Like, oh, for the winter season? I'm not sure yet. I haven't, like, looked at the whole lineup yet, so honestly, I, like, don't even know what's airing. Cause I know that, Classroom Elite Season 2 is airing. Season 3. That's one show I want to check out, so. Yeah, I know next week I actually plan on streaming, on checking out the whole list of shows, so. I'll know more then, but, yeah, off the top of my head, I'm not too sure. Not sure yet. I mean, I'm probably going to end up checking a bunch of stuff, as always. But in terms of content for the channel, I'm not sure yet. I'll see. As it stood, Aoko had no future. After confessing this and telling him to escape, why did this boy still offer to help a person like her?
わからない。どうしてそこまでするの?
Why do all this? Oh, because he got feelings.
私に付き合えばあなたは死ぬのよ。
Maybe. I'm assuming most likely.
これが最後だからちゃんと考えてよね。
Like, I'm 95% sure.
それはわかるよ。でも行かない。
Sojiro answered immediately, realizing that Aoko was looking for his reason. This level of insight in Sojiro demanded a round of applause.
そうすると、青崎が死んでしまいそうだ。
His words were as irrational as always.
だからどうしてそこまでするのよあんたは。
She was yelling out of frustration. After thinking for a moment, Sojiro replied, "Do you want to confess?"
そりゃ、君が好きだからだろ。
What? Simple and to the point. His face seemed to ask why she would even question him so. He's like, yo, it's obvious. There was no pause, no more than 2 seconds. His surprise attack had stopped Aoko in her tracks. Alice was not the only one who had an ace up her sleeve. That line reached deeper than flat snark could ever hope to. All Aoko could respond to was with an expression of pure shock. I mean, I feel like... Well, let's see this play out. It was a simple, stubborn reason, the strongest kind of on Earth. Oh yeah, that's they've been spoiling us. they've been spoiling us anime fans with all these movies and sequels, like announcements instantly. Man, season 2 had an awesome finale. I'm looking for the movie too, whenever that comes out. Hopefully soon. Hopefully, maybe next year. Maybe even like a year and a half. I think it'll be next year. Probably fall of next year. Sojiro Suzuki was indeed incomprehensible about the word. Yeah, but she felt as though she'd finally grasped a silver of his true nature. Silvermore and the others' assessment of him was correct, as vexing as it was for her to admit.
バカね。私はあなたのこと嫌いなのに。
You're sure a dip. What? He laughed at her sour grumbling. At this point, he was used to her insults. Their clash of wills ended there here. Aoko's blood ran hot from her blazing heart. If he was going to make a fence like that, all he could do was try to think of a way to get them both home. Yep. Oh my gosh.
私だって逃げっぱなしは性に合わないし。
I'm about to spill my drink.
いいわよ。最後まで粘ってみる。それにしずきくんが付き合ってくれるなら何かの役には立つでしょ。
Okay. Though her tone had lightened, there was still hesitation in her eyes. It was only natural. Aoko had not even a clue as to how to begin to fight the snark. If only she had been just a bit more skilled, or had trained just a bit more, there might have been some way to look for it.
我ながら情けない。せめて正体を暴く手がかりでもあればいいんだけど。
Maybe something with its magical something majiggy and I don't know. Excuse me. Without realizing, she let her apprehension show. Whining was pointless. She would just have to figure it out by herself. But
なんだ正体さえ分かればいいのか
Sojiro, man. Aku gave him a look as if to ask what that was supposed to mean.
いやだからおかしなものはどれかってことだろ
Sojiro also made a face that suggested she should have brought it up sooner.
わかるのあんた
This dude, man.
多分いや結構前から気になっていたんだけど
Sojiro whispered in her ear quietly as to not be overheard. It was certainly unexpected, but then again, equally obvious. After he explained the mistake, she knew right away that he was correct. At least she had an inkling of Flat Snark's original form. Namely, a Flat Snark? What? I'm curious now. They strategized for 10 minutes. Oh, that's 10 minutes. And that egg thing, Alice put that for 20. So, I wonder if that might interfere with their plan, though. I guess I have to wait and see. Wait, so does Sojiro's jacket have 2 zippers on the bottom and top? That's a weird coat. The heck? How does that work? Episode 22. That's the one that came out today. Yes, I did. If that's episode that came out today, yes, I did. Yo, when JK ends, I have to make a full video talking about that because, woo, season 2 has been a crazy ride. It's been a crazy ride. That has been crazy. Each episode, man, is just, it's either you're gonna get feels and then epic animation, or this epic animation and just full of like plot twists. But man, this season, JJK has been awesome this season. But after deliberation regarding the Snark's true form and figuring a plan of attack, the two exchanged nods in acceptance of their roles.
それじゃあここからは別行動ね
That's part of the plan to split up?
でもミラーハウスの時みたいなのは勘弁してよこの作戦の肝はあなたなんだから
Okay. Final plan. Though she jabbed him for his previous failures as a decoy, her voice was bright. Aqua's original vigor had returned to her at Sojiro's discovery of the truth. Meanwhile, Sojiro was also getting serious in his own way. He took Aoko's warning to heart.
ならいいけどいいさっきと立場は反対よ失敗したら死ぬのは私じゃなくてそっちもうフォローに回れないからできるだけ慎重にね
Okay.
分かってる
Okay.
今更ながらやっぱりさっき逃がしてもらえばよかったと思うぐらい慎重だ
There really is no water left. I'm so mad. When I got it before, I should have grabbed some. But Sojiro nodded, telling her to leave it to him. Though he made it sound like he was holding a grudge, it seemed to him to be the only way of showing her his resolve. Ako let aside defeat. Once more, she couldn't figure him out.
ほんと大バカなんだか大物なんだか
Yes.
でも任せた期待してるわ静木くん
A. She had wanted to say that she believed in him, but apparently that was too embarrassing for her. Aqua, you're funny. Aqua turned from Sojiro and began to run. She had begun to think that maybe this change of pace was not so bad after all. And so ended the intermission. The young cast were handed the new lines. But what of the climax? At long last, the Night of Witches had entered its climax. Ooh. Okay. Apparently, they had gone the opposite directions. Hold up. Let me check something. I've been getting a text message. Who's texting me about stuff? What do you want with me? We are entering the climax to this battle. Battle of the Witches. Sojiro and Aoko over making their plan. I like that though. I like. It's been interesting seeing Sojiro and Aoko getting close throughout this whole arc though. In fact, not even through this whole arc, but throughout the series, is seeing how their relationship has developed. Here we go. Was that? Oh yeah, that was then. Okay, so... Okay. Apparently they had gone opposite directions. The park's resident had set off after the boy witnessed, and would take them a mere minutes to capture them, so the bird said. What about the egg, though?
追いかけているのは本当に彼。青子が変装しているのではなく。
The robin flapped its wings, chirping away any doubt. It had seen them with its own eyes. Aoko was headed for the plaza, and that cocky brat was making a run for the roller coaster.
青子が彼を見捨てたですって。そんな簡単なことならいいけど。ダンプティは彼に張り付いているの。
Robin nodded enthusiastically. There we go. Okay, so what is this? One, two, three. Okay. It didn't know about the other birds, but with its superior night vision, it had seen that sucker, clearly because it had moved to a high point.
ダンプティはなんて最後まで歌わせる。こんな褒め殺したい間抜けはまたとない。
Scratch Dumpty was a ticking time bomb that would drop and detonate the moment its target averted its gaze. As long as his target continued to observe him in a way, he was a gentlemanly ploy kickshaw, though Alice wished he would forego such niceties in battle.
そうね。視線を切らないだけではダンプティからは逃げられない。表面の詩が完成すれば扉が開く。彼がどこまで逃げようと、あと少しでダンプティがしまってくれるわ。
Until the park, or rather the snark, was destroyed, Sojiro would not be able to escape, which meant the larger concern was Aoko. Aoko had promised to protect the boy, which begged the question, where was she running to? She's like, okay, what are they plotting? What's going on here? Makes sense.
ここにいる限り、青子の動向はつか。
Alice looked out over the park, ignoring the robin's attempt to get her attention with his plumage. Yo, listen to that bird, Aoko. Snark had nearly reached its full size. Okay. Snark had nearly reached its full size. It was a different breed of beast compared to the other cheap ploys. To her, it was one of her three most irreplaceable and precious familiars.
そうね。任せたわ、スナーク。青子が諦めない以上、あなたも手は抜かないで。
Yup, exactly. They wait until Aoko's down. Alice remained where she was, with the same historical merit as the troll under the bridge and the poison-clawed reptile. Flat Snark was one of Alice's ultimate ploys. She was placing her trust in his reputation and ability.
でも忘れないで。これはゲームよ。 勝敗がついたのなら私のところに帰ってきて。
The drifting fog ignored its master's words. It was the one thing that Alice had misread. Flat Snark was a king, even among the other ploys of terrible, vulgar antics. Death to the defeated, gruesome tragedy to the vanquished. It found no pleasure unless it brought about total ruination of life and wealth. The fog billowed like wicked laughter. After all, only a king had the right to decide the fate of the vanquished, and the Snarks agreed it could not be contained. Thus, it hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair despite its master's orders. Of course, man. They never play fair. They never play fair. Wait, why am I writing this down, man? I've been trying to read this one message and... Okay. It hadn't even the slightest intent to play fair despite its master's orders. Yep. This is where Alco went? Over 100 feet high. One careful step at a time, the figure made its way gingerly up the track, stretching into the heart of the amusement park. He stayed his beating chest and pounded his breath. What, soldier? Where are you going? And even tiny movements were an obstacle to his progress. This is crazy. Amazingly, the one making this pale-faced advance higher and higher was Sojiro Shizuki. Far below, he saw a horde of bread creatures had congregated by the roller coaster platform. As they busted this way and that, the numbers continued to increase by the minute, seemingly cheering on Sojiro with raised arms as he made his ascent. Or jeered him more like, beckoning him to come down. Of course, Sojiro neither did Sojiro, but his current state was the lesser of two evils. That's a weird sentence. The only thing that followed him now was the floating egg. After heaving a huge sigh, Sojiro bent forward a bit and climbed the track that reached to the heavens. 150 feet now. If this were a skyscraper, he would be on the 16th floor. Dang. Oh yeah, the wind, man, is different up there. The altitude. A strong gust of wind whipped through his hair. Humans had the instinctual fear of heights. In particular, a place like this, which called forth visions of falling to one's death, would cause a person's knees to tremble against their will. But it was an instinct that forewarned death, urging its master to turn to the safety of the ground. It was a reasonable reaction. Climbing the roller coaster tracks went beyond funny stories and into the realm of fantasy. The strong winds and change in air pressure were a hindrance. His instincts screamed at him to stop, causing his limbs to go numb, his muscles go limp, and his mind to race. Even if he had been tied to a lifeline, a mere 15 feet of climbing would still have caused his thoughts to freeze out of sheer terror. And it would only get worse from here, exponentially so. Every foot forward increased the load of both his mind and body by another degree. Just keep telling you that, man. Do not look down. The burden on his mind notwithstanding, he carefully measured the toll on his body with every step. His legs, which had carried him running this far, threatened to buckle the moment he let down his guard. This fatigue was likely why Alco had stressed that Sojiro's role was more dangerous than hers. Who knows, man. Sojiro laughed as he stared at the floating egg. He reflected on the course of events that had led to this absurd situation. Not even 10 minutes ago, they had been engaged in conversation.
あとはどう壊すかを話し合いましょう。
Oh, going back to hear what the plan is. Sojiro felt a shudder travel down his spine as Alco's. Yo, he's. Okay, so this was why she was mine, man. Sojiro, little did you know. In hindsight, Alco had been more than happy at this point to make him do something absurd.
どう壊すかって、それなら
Sojiro had spoken up, figuring out what he was about to say was silly, especially considering Alco had the magecraft to tear clean through the fence. Furthermore, up till now, he had not once offered his insight as to the true form of flat snark, only due to his belief that there was nothing they could have done about it, even if they were the wiser. But that had changed. For Alco, the impossible was quite literally within her grasp.
そうでもないわ。私の目算だとあと50メートル分ギリギリで届かない。
Despair filled Sojiro's eyes. Akko lifted a hand to her long hair, and with the magical energy in her fingertip, cut a clean tuft in her head.
足りない分は努力と根性ってね。あなたはできるだけ高いところまで逃げて。頃合いを見て合図を出すから。そうしたらこれを空に放ってくれる？しずきくんの役目はそれだけでいいから。
Okay. But based on where Alco pointed her gaze, she did not really mean to leave it up to Sojiro to pick the highest place he could find. Alco was staring conspicuously at one of the amusement park's two main attractions, the roller coaster or the Ferris
青
wheel.
崎とは
Okay.
別行動をとってあの怪物たちに追われながら高いところに逃げ込めと。
そういうこと。ほら、あのうねうね動き出してるコースターのレールとかよくない？
There are two demons in this park. Her smile made even Sojiro want to respond that it was far from perfect.
疑いたくはないんだが、本当はあの子とグルで俺を遠回しに殺そうとしてるんじゃないか。
I was, but no longer.
あら、私に殺されるのならいいんでしょ？
Haha, that's
人
true.
の出現を悪用するのはよくない。
Sojiro on his head, this was not sane. If he did as she said, he would die from exhaustion before Kitsy had even a chance to eat him.
私だって鬼じゃないわ。ほら、こっち向いて。おまじないかけてあげる。
Oh! It was the lightest of touches, close enough to their breath and skin to come in contact. Oh.
Oh.
I wasn't expecting this either, man. He finished with a hushed voice. For one of them, this was a rather mundane magecraft. For the other, it was a head-spinning sneak attack of intimacy.
軽く、弱く、うまく、早く。チクタク、チクタク。急げや、急げ。
Okay. Words that could not be produced by a normal... carrying a peculiar weight to them, reverberated against his eardrums. Larynx? I was really trying to figure out how to pronounce that. I gave up. I was going to try again, but yeah, no. If words were given colors, these would have been the colors of her name. Blue. Sojiro's exhausted body and burning blood gently cooled.
飛ぶ、泳ぐ、駆け抜ける。チクタク、チクタク。汽笛を鳴らせ。星はいつでも北の空。
In reality, it took but a few seconds, but the sudden contact felt a little longer until it ended.
よし、暗示成功。成功したはず。ここまで手応えがあったの初めてだし、アリスの小言もたまには役に立つじゃない。
A very merry Alco stood aside from very confused Sojiro. After he asked what the heck had occurred, she responded.
簡単な暗示よ。一時的に恐怖心を消しておいたから、高いところに登っても平気なはず。
Okay.
あの手の作業で一番足を引っ張るのは同様でしょ。恐怖も何も感じなければ、地上何メートルだろうと平均台とそう変わらないってわけ。
He seemed to get it. In actuality, all sounded like Greek to Sojiro, but he attempted it as an explanation of her strange actions.
やっと
Okay.
着いた。
Finally made it. He had arrived at the summit of the track. At the height of nearly 200 feet, Sojiro had a bird's eye view of the entire amusement park. He was able to spot Alco's figure right away. In the plaza not so far from here, she seemed to be occupied with something conspicuous. Her surroundings lay still. The bread men were still busy trying to figure out how to reach Sojiro by trial and error from the roller coaster's entrance. They had to head over 300 feet of distance to cover.
汗をかくはずだ。こんなに移動したのか。
The strong wind gales quickly dried the sweat from his brow, but he was drenched underneath his shirt. Ah, yeah, that's uncomfortable, man. With this much sweat was worth at least a half-mile run, not to mention all the scares he had experienced throughout the night. Yo, this is when you want to go to, like, hot spring afterwards, man. Like, jeez. Being that sweaty? Yuck. I'm good for, like, another 30 minutes before I'm out of energy, man.
あとはアイスを待つだけだ。
You felt a wave of relief, but not at the thought of Alka destroying the snark in this nightmarish park. He was simply happy that he could repay a bit of his debt from his house of mirrors. I think we'll get to see her playing in action soon. The blue bullet rose from the plaza where Alka was located. That signal. Sojiro stood atop the tracks, pulled out the patch that stowed in his pocket, and tossed it forward. Without any regard for his questionable footing, he gave it a mighty overwarm pitch. The small pouch drew a parabolic curve in Alko's direction, quickly becoming united, untied in midair. Oh. Inside the bag was a lock of her hair and a small stone weight.
高いところから風に乗せてくれれば、あとは何とかするから。
The tufted hair remained airborne, drifting as if watching over its owner. Sojiro's job was done. He remained concerned about the egg hovering over him, but there was nothing he could do about it. Sojiro breathed a sigh of relief and leaned forward to watch the rest of the plan unfold. But then, in the corner of his eye, he thought he spotted something familiar approaching Alko. It was happening on Alko's end. She gave him the signal, but was she able to follow through too? Oh, she rolled up her sleeve.
ルート、セット。
Oh, snap.
Direct. 1層、2層、予備に3層。魔力提供。体現に固定。循環よし、射角よし、術式安定、大まかよし。
Good enough. Not perfect, but good enough. A pattern began to carve itself into the brick street. The casting of an unprecedented incantation with unprecedented range. Keeping the rising tension contained within her crest, the fledglingly mage snapped her fingers.
決めた。ツアープラン、スターマイン。
She kneeled at the center of the formula and raised her head to the night sky. Not even a glimpse of the transmogrified fantasy land around her entered her vision now. Only one thing, one untouchable thing, was reflected in her blue eyes.
実はずっと気になっていたことが。
This is how their conversation started a few minutes prior. Sojiro began with a simple statement of fact. In truth, it really was the simplest of discrepancies. Between the reality of an hour ago and the illusion of the present, a difference both indefinitesimal and indefinite at the same time.
雲があったから勘違いしたんだろうけど。
There was something hiding in plain sight, something both seemingly impossible and in reality and unusual given its location. In this amusement park, where every paradigm had shifted, something was brazenly flaunting its normalcy. The moon?
今夜は新月なんだ、青崎。
Oh.
思えば初めっからその形だったものね、あんた。
Ah. It's kind of crazy too because they've been showing the moon a lot throughout this in like the background. This is from the Earth to the moon was 200 miles. Whatever. 1,000. Yeah. If it truly was identical to the actual moon, then this monster indeed lived up to its eerie reputation. So he's about to shoot down the moon? Well, it's actually Snark, but you know, the distance that far would have meant that it had no need to hide its form. It could fly its true form in front of all. But due to the very fact that it was hiding its true form, it meant it must have been within reach. The monster's camouflage implied that it had sat within the reach of a human's hands.
こっちの最大射程はよくて600ってところだけど。
At this point, it's time to give it all she had. Drawing on energy surging throughout the park, she extended her firing arm. The blue fireworks launched into the air. Looking up at her distancing, dancing in the wind above, Ako reached out her right hand, as if to catch the night sky. A mage's own body made for the perfect catalyst. And for a female mage, the hair she had grown over many years had made for a particularly valuable and powerful source of fuel. Okay. To use it, all she had to do was apply her will. She locked the fingers on both her hands together and shouted. Let's go. Woo! She hurled forth a clear challenge to bind the moon to herself. The mist began to whirl about in a vortex. The monster high above bore its fangs at the sight of the blue spell that appeared in midair. By the time Alice had noticed the change, the hostility between Alco and the Snark was palpable. I feel like she kind of... Ooh, I feel like, Alice kind of gave us the clue too with the moon there. But I was thinking it was the moon that she was on, but that's kind of nice. Flat Snark is too stubborn. The fog continued to thicken with no sign of abating. The moon had floated in the night sky could not pardon such an insolent mage. As if the Lord of the Night would bow down to such impudence. There's no saying his wrath in a challenge so fragrant. The robin swooped in to give its report, but Alice waved it away. Her gaze was fixed on the transforming golden moon. Her calls of resistance did not reach it. This fairy tale monster was beholden to nobody, and would have no qualms unleashing its vast might upon its puny prey. Oh! The core of her magic bullet howled. The magic circuits within her body spun. Ako fed the magical energy, scorching her nerves with imaginary flame. She was linked to the formula inscribed on the ground. The spell was read and executed at the same time, at the same as it always was, but its output was beyond reckoning. With this much firepower, even this mundane process would invite injury upon its caster. It was enough to burn up the nerves that were acting as a barrel. The imaginary heat had reached a Ako trembled at the endless feeling, but it would have to grin and bear it, lest their efforts come to naught. Ako could no longer move. When she had learned that Snark's true form from Sojiro, she gave up on any superiority of movement turret offered, and instead opted to become a stationary cannon. It was the only way she could reach it. It was impossible to hunt this Snark unless she anchored her crest to this location and angle. At the same time, this action revealed that she was out of options. Once the fuse was lit, she would have no choice but to fight to the bitter end. Ako took a deep breath. This was the way she wanted it. Her preparations were complete. She would be able to deliver its maelstrom of magical energy directly to the moon like a rocket payload. The third layer floating in the midair served as the cannon's nozzle and sight, and it would fire the magical energy once it reached it allowed Alco to adjust the angle of fire. I want her to fire this thing. Explaining all this. The moon became warped within her scope. Oh. It's changing? Oh. It's looking cool. As Alco charged her magical energy, the ploy displayed its golden form, as if to mock her. Ooh, looking like a yin-yang soul logo. Come forth, thou heavens, powerless scion of the innocent bloodline. For there it was, a point among the otherworldly sky, a mystical visage obfuscated by jade mists and azure clouds, called the greatest treasure known to the world of magecraft. The rarity more valuable than an entire kingdom, crowned phantasm. Ooh, ew, that's a skull! Jeez, that's eerie! Set apart from the very beginning, the world's greatest fabrication. Oh, she said, yeah, I'm not ready yet. Dang, she's sweating. Her instincts screamed at her to delay no further. This fairy tale-like monster was the greatest of its kind, and its true form was about to be exposed. Its open hostility indicated that it was making preparations for a counterattack. She had to shoot it down first. Magical energy was at 80%. The formula was operating normally. All that was left was to pull the trigger, but the calm voice inside her head asked if it was really okay. She had one shot at this, and there was no going back. It was a battle of precision with no room for miscalculations. Even a tenth of a second of hesitation would tip the scales. Was she ready for the pain? Was she ready to deal with the fallout she had missed? Could she really even take down the moon with such a tiny bullet in the first place? Hey, you won't know until you try. Her eyes fixed upon the moon were filled with determination, and an awareness that the moment she fired, the intense recoil would overwhelm her entire body. She shouted, "Let's go!" With every ounce of spirit she possessed, she fired the ultra-long-range projectile into the sky. Hey! Oh, then the thing, yep. The third layer embraced the magic bullet fired from the surface of the earth. The crest, an extension of Alco's self, unleashed light to pierce the moon. However, ooh, was it enough? Oh man. An enormous blue canopy pulverized the beam. It returned the ether, that 300-degree flame, to nothing as it came in contact with the blue. Ooh, the pain, yep. Ugh. The recoil of the grand magecraft literally boiled her blood. Her body couldn't handle it. Her heart stopped. Her brain went numb from the pain and impact. Her nerves petrified from end to end. Her magic crest revived them by force. Even though her vision had gone white, she could still see it. Swallowing the blood in her mouth, Alco looked up in a scowl. It's getting bigger. There it was, an enormous shield of ice, and a snaring, deformed skull. There was no time to think or hesitate. The magical energy throughout the park began to gather. Akko knelt. Across from the tyrannical face of the moon, Akko intuited that the eyes had yet to fully form. Flat Snark still hadn't reached its full strength, which means that she still has a chance, which was exactly why She's going for another attack? By accelerating the spell, Ako had damaged her own body. Ako sat up and braced herself for the pain caused by the load placed on the formula after linking with the snark. All she could do was endure it. All because... Ako had gotten a read on their relative strengths. Even if its volume of magical energy was identical, Snark's form, its mystic, was on a different league. No. Meaning if Snark gathered as of the keep singing Evangelion. Meaning if Snark gathered as much energy as it could, there was nothing she could do to prevent her annihilation. She loaded her next shot. She issued orders to the floating third layer. Ignoring the toll on her body, she began to accelerate the first layer formula. The role of her right hand's single layer was to absorb and store surrounding magical energy. The thick fog that drifted through the park was an ancient ether spewed out by Flat Snark's own body, but Ako could pour it into her formula. Ako's body, which had integrated with her formula, took on an amount of magical energy that far surpassed its maximum capacity. It seethed in agony. Or rather, it trembled in delight. For a mage, magical energy was a propellant to reach the realm of mystics, the expansion of internal time, the liquefaction of the self, the release from the physical, what one might call a near-death experience. Ako stood face to face with reality on the boundary between it and such concepts. And that reality was here to break her will. To any bystander, the gap between them would be plain to see. The gun barrel named Aoko Aozaki, she had not a chance to chip away at the lump of ice. Unbearable. She accelerated the spell further. The skull grinned. That ice was no shield. It was something to be used to crush mages who did not know their place. The moon laughed as it prepared to crush not just Alco, but the boy atop the roller coaster, as well as the park in its entirety. Her circuits were on the verge of going critical. Her body had been charged with scorching power supply from her fingertips to her eyeballs. She could see it with that bullet, see that the bullet fired. That the Magecraft formula would be strengthened as quickly as her nerves' transmission speed would allow. A single attack was not enough. There was no way to shoot it from its flank, which meant there was only one solution. The third layer began to transform. It switched from direct to alternating current. The spell's supposed strong point was its ability to adjust its trajectory mid-flight, but right now all she wanted was its numbers. Hey, if first you don't succeed, try again. Oh, so what does this do now? A blue sun shined down upon the amusement park. Beams of light at maximum output streaked forth to pierce the golden moon. Okay, multiples, okay. Ooh, yeah, break through that ice. Holding out the trigger, she continued the fire, taking energy ad infinitum. Blue flame shot forth at a critical level, but the ice would neither melt nor mar. No amount of sheer heat could make a dent in something seen formed from such a colossal amount of magical energy. The toll on her circuits sent them berserk, and blood began to run free. Battle had become a tussle over the magical energy that filled the park. From the very beginning, this had been the Snark's home turf. The Snark had controlled over at least 80% of the space, while Alco had 20 at best. No, the Castle of Ice descended as if to call the match. What she could do was delay the inevitable. She knew that she had been backed into a wall, and right now the only thing she could do was to keep firing. Then again, perhaps not. There was another option. If she converted all magical energy into a defense, there was a tiny chance, not tiny, a great possibility in fact that she could save herself. But she gotta think about Sojiro too. Clinging to that broken hope, Alco continued to rotate her circuits. Time seemed to stop at the magical energy overdose. The second of intense pain lasted for an eternity. Then it missed everything. Something approached one step at a time. Who the heck's this? Something from among the park's shadows. Something. Oh, at the worst time. She felt goosebumps from her head to toe. The issue was no longer the ice overhead. And amidst the stillness, the Red Death drew closer, step by ominous step. Her circuits and her mind began to rupture out of terror. Oh my gosh, this is actually scary. The composition of her formula and soul began to rip apart. There it was, just behind her. Its footsteps came to a halt. It reached around and cupped her face with its blood-stained hands. She wanted to scream out with all her might. This is, nothing matters. I couldn't care less. Run or don't run, it doesn't matter. Quit hiding and reveal yourself. Use whatever you can and show no mercy. That was it. She had one final card to play. A miracle that would treat that ice like nothing more than a toy, gifted to her as a mere amusement. That was what the Red Death had come to kill. Using it would spell ruin. And not just using it would mean death by ice. But why would Alco hesitate? There's no conditions limiting her. There'd be no price to pay by employing it here. She simply would cease to be herself. That was all. Humans love to exist in areas of gray. Dozens of electrical impulses disconnected to the brain every minute. Nothing lasts forever, not even oneself. It was not anything particularly worthy of disdain. It was not even anything remarkably worthy of being called taboo. What escaped her lips now was rage. Bewilderment from the red silhouette. The girl let out an audible scream. Could true magic truly be her savior? What an opportunistic, bloated bull. After all, to begin with, indeed, Alco was still in the dark when it came to that magic, whatever it was. Oh. Sojiro, bro. She woke up from her momentary hallucination. The very illusion her breaking soul had shown her. Whining had the opposite effect on her. Her pride was now ablaze. Wait, whose voice is that? Oh, Sojiro was right. Her opponent had put her in check, but she had done the same to it. It was clear why she was losing, and now all she needed was a counter plan, well within her abilities. No matter the odds, she was not one to give up without giving it one last shot. Her numbed fingers clenched into a tight fist. She was betting against the house, an unreasonable gamble that should have made her question her sanity. If her first step was off by an inch, her body would be instantly vaporized. But she knew a boy who never fled. Sojiro was there the whole time. She knew the steadfast courage that could shine in its light, no matter how small, through any desperate situation. Yes, there's more than just herself to be concerned about. If the ice fell, it would mean the destruction of the park in its entirety. Everything he had achieved, everything he had risked, and dared and happily put his life on the line for, would all be for naught. Yes. It's so up there just watching. Okay, let's go again. Determination and confidence surged through her like electricity. She was in no mood to be crushed by a giant sheet of ice. If she was going to lose, she'd rather do so as the grandest firework. Ako was a sore loser at this point. She would rather burn herself to cinders than let it decide her end. Okay. She grunted in pain. Energy raged throughout her body. Her circuits were on the verge of disintegration. Inscribed upon her body, her magic crest was Magecraft given physical form. It did not, however, stop with simply skin and flesh. It burrowed into the very marrow of her bones. Ugh. A playful smile graced her lips. Her sense of reason had been turned upside down by the pain. That was only natural. She had to praise her own body for holding out so long, while pushed beyond its limits. The skull-face noticed the abnormality. It finally recognized the challenge for dominance over the space. It laughed at the conceit it faced. Neither did it expect the magician to challenge the great flat snark, lord of vessels over millennia, and in such an age of decline. She tried to catch her breath. She balanced herself for the coming pain. She was going to smash that ice to pieces. Both had access to the same amount of magical energy. One of them was greatly outmatched, but I'll make it bigger. The feedback would go beyond anything she experienced to date. Quite simply, her decision went beyond recklessness. She expanded both formulae to maximum size. Dang. The first layer would transform into a giant vortex, swallowing up the mist. The second layer would process it from one end and pump it into her and the bear. Okay, I follow that. That's cool. Exactly. The primeval magical energy responded in concert to her conviction. It formed a pattern of a withering serpent, voiceless magical power flying the banner of revolution. She beckoned the great power of old to feast its eyes upon the land, for it was the first of the trailblazers, the representative of a mankind that knew no fear and would rend all manner of mythic and mystic to naught.
しかりはここまでよ。嘘つきブーチャム。お望み通り、のしをつけて返してあげる。
What? For the newest magician commanded the principles of consumption and extinction. An aberrant bullet of light emitted through the castle of ice. His barrel was tempered. Her control of magical energy was divine. Her veins, totaling 62,000 miles in length, and 2.5 times the circumference of the equator, accepted the flow of magical energy with avarice. The subsequent magical bullet swiftly flew straight into the moon. No. Death rose to the surface of the moon. A cry of terror, indignation, echoed through the abandoned park. Reality was born into the eyes of this creature of fantasy. That grin. As Ako looked upon his vain attempt to struggle, she knew she had tasted victory. Victory despite her absolute recklessness, use of magical energy. The energy scales had been tipped to their breaking point, but nevertheless in her favor. Hey. Yo, I swear the animations with this is nice. Quality. Shatter, 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 shatter. The skyscraper scattered into atomized dust. The island, its attainability extolled, had swallowed whole the despair of its many challengers. And which remained of this once proud thing that boasted of its untouched knowledge? Yeah, take down Snark, take down the Snark. Azure mist bemoaned its demise. The ice canopy in the mountains crumbled. The Snark hunting bullet jumped over the moon. Its throes of death sounded like a roaring sea reverberating across the fairy tale island. Yeah! The battle was over. Woo! Okay. What was going on in the comments? Yo, Robert, congrats on the fishing license. And Troy plays. Yeah, isn't that? Oh my God! No! I forget this is empty. My water bottle. This is about to pour onto all my electronics. But Trailblazer, yo, man. Honkai Star Rail reference. Is that also a character in Honkai? I don't know it like that, but okay. Yo, I'm looking forward to when I get to Arc 2 too. The thick fog dissipated, and the shattered ice melted away before it hit the ground. A lethal bullet had stopped the Night King along his throne, affording him no time to grieve his loss. I remember seeing the opening animation for Part 2 last month. I was like, "Ooh, this kind of looks intriguing." And I was like, "Oh, let me stop. let me stop." Oh man, the oil of the moon, the untouched flat Snark. The dreamscape that had begun with his resurrection ended with his demise, drawing a close to this nightmare. I'm about to lose my voice soon, y'all. I think you kind of only a little bit, you know. Oh yeah, she's exhausted. Flying her back, Ako looked up at the night sky. She lay there perfectly still, not able to move a single finger. When she tried, her whole body screamed out in agony. She was completely empty of magical energy, and her magical crest had become a halt. She estimated that it would likely require a whole day to recover all her bodily functions. Sadly, all she could really do in that moment was take a breath. At least her chest was swollen with pride. Magical pride. She had gone toe-to-toe with a fairy tale monster and had emerged victorious. The battlefield conditions had favored her. It was true, but there was no denying that Aoko had come a long way in the last 6 months. I agree.
それはそれとしてアリスには謝っとかないと。
Hey, that's the noble thing to do.
壊したらそれっきりだものね。
Flat Snark would never again return to this world. It was an insanely rare item, so invaluable that it would have been impossible to price it for auction at the association in London. Aoko had sent Alice's priceless treasure to the Magecraft world of Oblivion. Wow. Needless to say, things had gotten more than a little out of hand. Well, Snark didn't want to listen, so Snark got what was coming to them. They both agreed to the fight, so Alice probably wouldn't complain. Even if she was furious, she would not be so undignified as to show it. The second Aoko relaxed, her fatigue finally caught up with her. She did everything in her power to fight the overwhelming drowsiness. Aside from a few minor external injuries, her body was miraculously unscathed, so much that she felt that she could probably stand up and dust herself off after a bit of rest. The golden moon continued to burn in the night sky. Aoko's bleary eyes went wide in astonishment. She was still unable to lift a finger. She sighed in resignation. Aoko accepted our final stand and left her with only 10 seconds before she was burned to ash too. Oh crap. Elsewhere, just a short moment prior, oh boy. Buffeted by a strong wind atop the roller coaster, Sojiro gravely peered down at the ground. Yeah, what about that egg, man? What's up with that egg? Is it about to, like, open right now? All he could muster was a single murmur. All he could see was Aoko atop some drawing on the ground, and... In the distance, there was something familiar in the direction of the ruined houses of mirrors. Soldier's job was to throw Aoko's hair at great height was complete. While not the most impressive of tasks, it was absolutely a matter of life or death. And top it off, just thinking about how he was going to get back down to the ground was making him dizzy. Yo, I have Agama. But okay, this is when she did that. Soldier was spectating all this. He was flustered as he stood atop the swaying bridge. Okay, I thought my thing froze. The skull, yeah, appeared in the sky above. Yeah, you saw all this. Yeah, we saw all this from our perspective. Okay. And one more thing. The shadow was approaching Aoko that only someone from a vantage point could see. The shadow missing his lower half of the body. Ain't no way. Soldier, what are you about to do, man? You're gonna fight it? The upper half of his body was slowly crawling its way to Aoko. They were still over 600 feet apart. Unfortunately for Aoko, had completely failed to notice its approaching from behind. He was sure of what it was now. There was only one thing in the park that could chase Aoko and not him. The puppet. What? His mind ran in circles, and it was perfectly reasonable reaction. Any grip on reality he might have left was long lost when Aoko started firing beams of light in the monstrous moon. So what are you gonna do about this, man? Miss Ako's out of energy. So it was enough for him to be thrown off and killed. At any rate, Sojiro couldn't fathom the situation. Should he head back to the entrance of the roller coaster and warn Ako about the incoming threat? No, there was no way he could make it in time. And to make matters worse, there's a horde of bread down there, waiting for him. It may very have been the case that Ako was already aware of the puppet and would make it out as soon as it got closer. If she was, Sojiro was sure he would only be in the way. So what you gonna do? Call over Alice or something? Like, it did not seem like there was anything he could do to help. And beyond that, Ako was not the only one in danger. He was in quite the predicament himself. You can't go home again. The road home was never as safe as one thought. It was as true as here as it had been in the mountains. The path he was on was no exception. As risky as the ascent had been, it was more dangerous to go back down. This is no time to be worrying about others. His shaky legs reminded him that only 200 feet separated him from death. Reasonable. His head was pounding. This was reckless and stupid. Having been raised on the mountains, he was more sensitive to danger than anyone raised in that city. And just thinking about what he was about to do made his throat seize up. What's he about to? Sojiro. There was only one thing he could say for sure. With a sobbing shout, Sojiro started making his way down the 200-foot frame of the roller coaster. This is insane. That's exhilarating. His race towards death accelerated. He never meant to speed up, but the downward slope propelled him forward. Yeah, that's momentum, man. Hey. It was too late for regrets. Now that he was running, he had no choice but to go even faster. The time was not on his side. He would never have made it in time if he had gotten the long way down. Never mind the bread men crowding the exit of the roller coaster. With the exit blocked, the outcome would be the same, whether he went slowly or quickly. There was no reason to rush to his death as desperately as he did. So what if it was futile? Sojiro cleared his doubts from his mind. He turned his attention to what he could do, except keep his footing and tried to arrive at the bottom as quickly as he could. He had no idea what impulses were driving his stiff limbs. He just focused on the moment, pushing past the fear and the logic and the cold logic. At his core, he was the kind of person to deal with problems head on. There would be time to think about consequences later. And we got this egg here still, but hesitation was not his only obstacle. The worst possible hindrance appeared at the time when not focusing on the track would mean certain death. Sojiro sensed something wrong with the egg that had been studiously observing out one eye. Something had changed. At the very moment he realized it. Sojiro stumbled, then instinctively caught himself. It was a miracle he hadn't fallen. Descending a roller coaster on foot was an act of suicide. It is. The egg stayed right by his side, and so close that it was likely it would collide with him. Though he was trying as hard as he could not to look at it, he could not help but feel unease at that the door-like decoration in its center was gradually opening. He cursed this rotten situation, and yet he refused to slow down. He ran even faster, glaring at the egg on his side. Sojiro was baffled to find out that he was smiling. Yo, he's excited about this. He's like, yeah, I like the thrill. Perhaps it was something to do with Ako's charm. Sojiro could not tell one way or another. There's that too. He could still feel Ako's fingers on his skin. The trust and expectation she had placed on him etched into his heart. But what spurred him on was something entirely different. It was all stemmed from a much deeper problem. It was something inside him that he could not understand at the time, but would eventually come to terms with one day. He carelessly judged the distance as he ran down the track of death. But the distance between what? By saying that without saying, it was the distance between himself and the one thing that could save his life. He told himself he was going to do it over and over, like a mantra. Sojiro could not believe himself. What he was about to do was incredibly stupid. But what is stupid when smart is not an option? He's going to jump onto the egg? Amidst it all, he laughed at how pointless such self-reflection was now. Temporarily confused, a psychological thrill ride, both had laid his soul bare. Where it really mattered. But a simple man gets by without deep thought. Sojiro's primitive mind did not crave success or reward. For him, it was simple. He was doing it because he wanted to, not because he felt obliged to those around him. His desire to live his way was his and his own. Let's go, man. If the egg had been equipped with a vocal function, it would have gasped in shock at what had happened next. The boy who had only tried to escape up until this point suddenly shifted his way. He pointed his feet outward instead of inward. On the edge of one rail, he crouched ever so slightly and maintained momentum and gazed at the floating egg. This is insane. He soared through the night sky. It was a flight that lasted a mere 1.5 seconds. The cordless bungee jump from 100 feet above ground, his destination. I know! The only thing that would stop his fall, the giant flying egg. He shrieked, this time out of elation, as he desperately clung to the egg's surface. Just earlier, the cold-blooded witch had told him that, without fear, the top of a building would feel no different than a balance beam. This is the same witch that would have been left speechless had she witnessed the spectacle. Fearlessness was one thing, recklessness was another. He followed it up with an act that would irritate her for days to come. Clinging to the egg, he shifted his gaze away from it. He felt the rapid descent. Sojiro focused I'm baffled by the situation, man. I can't even this is insane. Sojiro is crazy. Something so unbelievable. Those to Sojiro, the elevator at the department store, and the mysterious floating egg were both just moving objects, virtually indistinguishable from one another. He stuck the landing. He landed near the plaza. The shortcut that almost cost him his life had paid off. Sojiro took off running the second his feet touched the ground, wasting no time. Nothing but after Alco was one thing on mind. He paid no mind to the moonlight in the sky. It's only after Alco. And this egg is opening up, or the egg, furious about being used and seconds away from self-destructing, a blast fragments all over its place. Queen Alice, Boone, Kraz. Okay. I was trying to read that earlier. Ako's dumbfounded expression spurred Sojiro on. The curse was complete. The egg began to sing its warning to let them know there is no escape. Ooh! Shrapnel from the egg explodes through the air. The ode to the Queen Alice that Alice had engraved into Dumpty quickly robbed him of his senses. Okay, was that it? Oh, he was talking. He snapped back to the task at hand and ran to the alcove, still lying on the ground. His legs ran out on their own accord, though he could not have stopped them anyway, since he could no longer feel them. Okay. Don't you puppets ever give up? Yeah, that's right, man. Talk smack. Ooh, that worked out perfectly. Okay, Sojiro. I mean, he didn't know that was also going to happen, but okay. That was epic. The scrambled murder case. Piles of rubble became flowers and light blooming from the earth. Woo! The final curtain drew close, and the defeated left the battleground. Had Alice Kunchi seen up close, it would have left her beside herself. The two had escaped by hair's breadth. The only person in position to witness this rare mutual destruction was the girl who had been saved from it. Yo, if you saw what he did earlier, Halco, man, the boy who had never stopped running paid it no mind. The safety of the girl in his arms meant infinitely more to him than the miraculous way in which he saved her. Sojiro, man, you are different, man. You are a different person. How far do we have left of this chapter? Because if it's like 10 more minutes, then I'll stick around. But if it's like another hour, I gotta go. Well, let me check this out for a second. Roughly, because I know this was a long chapter. I think I'm almost done. Let's see. The moon did not wait for dawn to set. The ornamental texture of the fairy tale kingdom faded away. All the illusions returned to the way they were before. From the ostentatious chords reverberating through the streets, to the puppet welcoming their guests. Peace and quiet reigned once more. Over a forgotten kingdom, never to be awakened again. Out flickered the embers of late night dream. Hold up. Hold up, what is this? Yeah, I think we're almost done with this. Yeah. Whoa, wait. Go back. Is my thing on autoplay? That was my thing on pressing the whole... I think my pressing... Whoa, wait, stop. Go back. My thing was playing the whole time. Rican Kingdom. The curse of the floating egg had Mum's pain. Looked like Okay, I didn't miss a lot. She addressed Sojiro indifferently as her gaze remained on the amusement park. The abruptness of it was a bit theatrical in nature. She wanted to look at him as she spoke, but her pride was simply too great.
あなた、なんかすごいことしなかった？
He did. The moment she had accepted death had seemed like an eternity. She was beside herself in shock at how indifferent she had been as the shards rained down from the moon. But a reassuring voice had snapped her back to reality. Why did he do it? What was he thinking? What moronic things did he have to do to pull it off? She had no answers for these questions, lying on the ground as she was. All she knew was that he had more than made up for his failure in the house of... Yo, why is that on autoplay? How do I stop that? Stop. Wait, hold it. Stop. Is that off? Yeah, it is. Okay, there we go. She had no answers for the questions lying on the ground as she knew. She rested hoping to find answers, but found herself unable to probe any further. Okay. To dig deeper would feel like defeat, which is why it was unlike her to ask him in the first place. Luckily for her, Sojiro had neither the capacity nor sensitivity to understand how egocentric she was being.
すごいって、それは青崎の方だろ。
He shuddered between labored breaths. It was taking him much effort to just breathe that he could not address her properly. She watched him out of concern out the corner of her eye. Thinking back on it, the boy had performed the same role each time. Each and every time, he did what he could in spite of his feckleness. Yeah, he was able to, he told Sojiro proving himself. He's like, hey, I don't got magic, but I got heart. He did not recognize how extraordinary his last act of courage was.
提案、あいつをやっつけるのに協力したら、俺のことを見逃してくれる？
Yeah, he kept trying whatever he could. The spectator might have viewed him as a supporting actor, but his actions were not exactly memorable. But the lead actress he supported did not see it that way.
まあね。認めたくないし、口になんてもっとしたくないけど。
What should I say out loud? But such inspired actions were wasted on supporting role. This guy really pulled out them. He did pull out, Sojiro, he pulled out the impossible. Yo, he surprised me. Sojiro proved himself to me when he jumped off that roller coaster. Like, seriously.
あんた、人畜無害のどうすぎると侮れないわ。
I'll probably do fake girl live stream. I've been wanting to do it for a little bit. I'll probably do it once I figure out my whole streaming thing for that, because I test streamed that thing and that thing was laggy as heck. I was like, okay, I gotta change a lot of my settings and stuff. So how could she not? Even she was forced to admit that the way he snatched her from the jaws of death was dashing.
評価甘めだけど。
Truth be told, he was a lunatic for doing what he did. I already knew that. I called him crazy many times. She steadied her breathing and composed herself. She was in bad shape, and she had her pride as a mage to consider, which is why she needed to maintain an air of dignity when making a proclamation. Oh. Okay, what's the proclamation?
しずきくん、見逃すのは今日だけって話だったけど、あれ、なしでいいわ。
Really?
とりあえず、命は助けてあげるから。
Oh. For the time being, she hastily extended her right hand. It was either to shake his or to help him up. However, Sojiro did not take her hand, but instead stood up on his own. His double-zippered jacket, like, this night, despite the sheerness and sanity that he had experienced, his face did not once look as incredulous as it did now.
何そのリアクションは。
She stammered, worried that she had desperately embarrassed herself. Sojiro's gaze was fixed upon Aoko. Oh, the station is live now? What? Where they live at? I'm about to multitask. Stream this while also opening up Fate Go on my phone. Okay. I'll check that live stream as soon as I'm done with this. Though she normally hated being stared at, this time she did not mind. Although she was enjoying the warmth in his eyes and felt like it was something she could almost come to appreciate. In fact, what day is it? The 21st? I remember seeing something about that today, actually. The conversation came rushing back. Tunguska? Okay. It was a memory better left forgotten. Pushing Tobimaru's words out of her mind, Ako turned to Sojiro. Okay. Puzzle Sojiro tilts his head. He's like, yo, what? Where did this come from? Why are you saying this to me now? Responded matter-of-factly to her sudden declaration. A raid boss. Ah, okay. She certainly had pointed that out, and to his face, no less. It had merely figure of speech that he was meant to take. Okay, yeah. Yet, belabor she did anyway. Ako blushed slightly, realizing how insane he was being. Wait. Okay. She wondered how she'd end up in this position. Yet she knew that she had to get this off her chest. All that was left was to politely wait for his response. I can't date you. Such a heartbreaking, painful words were too much for the simple boy to bear. His shoulders slumped as if the world was coming to an end, or so Ako thought. On the contrary, Sojiro was sitting there in deep thought. Oh man, this misunderstanding. Sojiro murmured the words as if they were a magical spell. She shot right back at the affirmation. After a moment of deep contemplation, the boy turned to the expectant girl and said, Sojiro, do not change, man. Do not change. Oh, man. He had to be joking, but he was not. He was completely serious. He liked her, but he didn't like her. Of course, the vice president had jumped to conclusions. This boy had no interest in romance. He probably didn't even know what that was. That's kind of true. That's a bit insulting, but it's true. She was incredibly embarrassed by how confused Sojiro still appeared to be. Her rosy complexion spread throughout her entire body. Dang, I saw that coming a mile away, man. Just like that. She had lost her cool and given in to an unjustifiable outburst. It was time to seal off the area and destroy all evidence. Ako's embarrassment delved into sheer panic, and her grudge against Tobimaru suddenly manifested as criminal assault. She lashed out with a punch that could have taken out a bird mid-flight. More specifically, it was a real brutal right hook. Ako blinked. Her blow had connected with something solid, snapping her out of reverie. Yo, Sojiro knocked out? Her temper had lashed out at a completely defenseless Sojiro. It had been a splendid blow with all her weight behind it, knocking him out cold. Dang. Sojiro groaned, crumpled to the ground. Her punch finished the job that the curse had started. If not for the discomfort in his face, he appeared almost asleep. To be sleeping. Ako convinced himself that he was napping, not concussed. The tension on her shoulders eased away as she looked down at Sojiro. A ton had gotten away from her over the course of today, but the day was saved for now. With nobody left to butt heads with, she felt exhaustion finally overtake her. Oh, okay. Her fatigue was enough to make her complain out loud. When she thought about it, she realized that this was the first time she had used up all her magical energy, and the first time she had participated in a battle of this scale without any prior preparation. Though in truth, she felt somewhat proud as she whispered those words. Normally, it was something that she would beat herself up over, but instead she simply shrugged her shoulders with a bigger smile. After all, it was thanks to the person sleeping by her side. As if the night had swallowed her voice before it reached him, she received no response. Confident, she continued in an even quieter voice. Only because he's knocked out. Of course, there was no response from Sojiro, and she was not expecting one. Saying it for the record was enough. Ako watched Sojiro sleep for a while, and then pulled something out of her pocket. Oh. Leaving behind words colder than a winter chill at night, she called out his name. She barely sensed the bottle moving. As the silhouette of the fallen boy appeared to blur, she got the feeling that the weight of the bottle had increased slightly. What appeared to be a human form could clearly be seen inside the bottle. As Kunjo's tools were mystics that confounded even the most knowledgeable of mages. As soon as Ako tried to analyze them with logical reason, she was already out of her depth. So what did that do? Knowing this all too well, Ako closed the bottle and watched the boy disappear as if some magic trick. Oh, so she put him into a bottle? She muttered as she looked into the magical bottle. Its weight had not changed significantly, and she had no idea how it worked, but the one thing she did know was that there was a human being inside of it. Okay. Well, that makes it easier so she didn't have to carry him down or wake him up. His lightweight was almost unnerving, closer to empty air than a human being. It was about as heavy as one would expect if they bottled up a summer breeze, though it did not fit her image of Sojiro perfectly. She muttered to no one in particular as she recalled the past. Ako wore a bitter smile as her usual moodiness was gone. It was a dangerous world out there. It was good to have someone to keep her on her toes. With a wry chuckle, she flicked the magical bottle with a finger and set it walking. Turn that off. Okay. It is off. Okay. She could hear a bell in the distance, signaling the end of the play. An ephemeral dream gave way to reality. In the grand scheme of things, it had been but an instant. As the actors exited stage left, the last of the lights silently flickered out. And so the long-dead amusement park played its final role, as a memory for boy and girl. Is the chapter over? Oh man, that was so long. This was a great chapter though. Great chapter nonetheless. Man. Ooh, I'm just tired. I was actually thinking about stopping at midway when they said that the climax of the battle was about to be. I was like, oh man, maybe I should stop now. But it's like, you know what? Maybe there's only like a little bit left. An hour and a half later. Actually, it was only an hour and 10 minutes ago, but nice because then that would be an hour stream. We made it to the end of this witch battle. I'm curious how Alice is going to be talking to Alco next time. Yeah, Night of the Witches. Where are my archives? Okay. Part 1, Part 2. We got that. Yeah, we are on top of everything. Give me another save. So next chapter was what? Like a dog? Interesting. Like a dog. So anyways, yo, thank you all for tuning in for another stream of Witch on the Holy Night. I might be live tomorrow. I'll see how I'm feeling. Because I'm working earlier tomorrow, so I'm actually free during the evening. So I'll see. If not, I might stream during the weekend. Yeah. I'll see what happens. If not tomorrow, then the weekend at some point. Saturday or Sunday. What day is Christmas? Is that on Saturday? No, that's Sunday. No, it's Christmas Eve. Christmas is on Monday. Okay. Yeah, I'll see what happens. Next is chapter 6. How many chapters is Witch on the Holy Night? Isn't it like 12 chapters? So we're about to be like halfway there, which is actually kind of cool. Right? Is it 12 chapters? No, it's 13 chapters. Yeah, wow. We're actually having some good progress with this. Maybe I might finish this before that year ends. Haha. Anyway, yo, I'm looking forward to what's to come next. I'm curious when her sister might pop in the next chapter. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, and yeah, if I don't see y'all this weekend for whatever reason, something pops up, then yo, have yourselves a Merry Christmas. I might be streaming. I'll see what happens. I don't want to just say I will. I might. I'll see how I'm feeling. And see what else is going on around because, you know, holiday season, family coming by. So, yeah. But I definitely have some other stuff on the channel, no doubt about it. And definitely going to be streaming next week, talking about what shows I'll be watching for the winter season that's coming up. Are people already posting up videos on that? Like, I still have to do my annual. I'm working on a tier list for 2023 anime. That's a video for next week too. But yeah, I've got some interesting content on the channel this next upcoming week. Stuff that I just need to finish doing because I'm a procrastinator. But yeah, Slime Season 3. I'm looking forward to that. No doubt about it. A lot of sequels coming out next year. So yeah, I'll save some more discussions for that live stream. But yo, anyways, thank you for tuning in. Have yourselves a nice night. And yeah, what ending theme shall I go with today? Where's my endings? Or my closer? Let's see. Hey, Blood Rain, Nightwalker. No, I'm feeling this one today. Anyways, see y'all later. Have a nice day. Nice night. Happy holidays. Peace and out.